corporate sponsorship. Camping World backed out after just a few years, back down. They're still involved. So everything you are saying is spot on. And if John Force calls it a day, there will be nobody who can truly fill that void. What else does he say? One other quick
Wow.
note. The NHRA rudely asked Tom McEwen not to come anymore to national events in 2000. Perdome often stays away. So does Bernstein. Shirley only goes if they pay her. Garlitz, forget it. Amato, Bazemore, Selzy, Dixon, Dunn, WJ, Ace, Beck. They stay away. Sponsors: Bud, Castrol, Miller, Ford, McDonald's, Kendall, Toyota. After this year, all gone. So this was
Wow.
one heck of a rant by somebody I respect.
So they're losing a shit ton of their sponsors too. That's crazy. Yeah, when you start losing sponsors, man, that's never a good sign. I don't know, man. I'd like to see it stick around. I mean, because it is fun to watch, but shit's expensive too, man. I mean, I know it costs money to run these shows, and it costs a lot of money to run these cars, And I've never really understood how these people are making money. I mean, they spend so much money rebuilding these engines, building these cars, and they're not getting NHRA can't be paying them very much. I don't know. I don't get it.
A great deal. Another rant that I'm not going to disclose the source right now, but let me tell you, this is a current Nitro owner. And here's what this Nitro owner said. We know that there's something wrong. We know there's problems. He said, we all love racing so much, we deal with it. This is the quote that this individual gave me, too, that
We
sticks in
deal
my
with it.
head. He says, speaking to the Pro organization, which is run by all the different racers, Alan Johnson, a big part of it out there, very, very important and influential. These are the multimillionaires that are spending $9+ million a year to go Nitro racing. This racer told me, quote, we would never tolerate the way that we're treated in our businesses, but we tolerate it from the NHRA because we love racing. Okay.
Wow. Isn't that crazy? I don't know if I could do that, man. If you won't tolerate it in your business, why would you tolerate it in Nitro? Think about that, $9 million a year. Holy shit. That's a lot of money to be spending to race for them top fuel cars. Dang, that's crazy.
Let me see if you're following me with this introduction, and let me back up for a second. Here is what is wrong with the NHRA. If you guys dissect the corporate structure of what's going on, as I told you in my last video, NHRA operates as a not-for-profit organization. They do not pay taxes. There may be a problem there. That the not-for-profit benefit.
They're not for profit? Well, then how the hell are they making money? That's a problem.
Comes in from Wally Parks' vision to take illicit street racing and put it on the drag strip. That's awesome. I love it. Can anybody go to an NHRA national event now and look at Top Fuel and Funny Car and $22 hot dogs and tell me that it is not a for-profit business? Okay,
Yeah,
that is a problem, but not the biggest problem. The biggest
it is yeah, absolutely. Who's getting that money then? Because they're charging outrageous money for the tickets. So for it not being a not for profit, something wrong there.
problem is that NHRA is run by a board, not a person, but a board. So I'm sorry, it took me 8 minutes to filibuster into that, but let me explain. Remember this theme as we go through this video too. This is the crux of every single problem that runs rampant in the NHRA, and that is, it is run by a board that does not consist of, as my gentleman said via text, nobody who has ever raced, participated in racing, been around racers. In fact, nobody who even comes to the races anymore. In fact, we talked a
Wow.
lot about President Glenn Cromwell. And by the way, too, salaries.
Yeah, that's when companies go downhill, man. When they get people up in the top that don't know nothing about the company or they're not interested in it, that becomes a major problem.
I've done some investigation. Salaries, public, we have some data from 2023. This according to nonprofit Explorer, which has this back in 2023. According to them, they have Glenn Cromwell at $897,000 a year as the president. That was back a couple years ago. Are those numbers, there could be more to those numbers as well. That is what's published on that site. I am citing
Wait a minute, how much did they
Cromwell.
say?
And by the way, too, salaries, I've done some investigation. Salaries, public, we have some data from 2023. This according to nonprofit Explorer, which has this back in 2023. According to them, they have Glenn Cromwell at $897,000 a year as
Really? $897,000 a year? How are they paying them that much if they're a non-for-profit? There's some shady going on there. They're non-for-profit, but their president's making almost $1 million a year. That's crazy.
president. That was back a couple years ago. Are those numbers, there could be more to those numbers as well. That is what is published on that site. I am citing my source. However, how many of you know that Glenn Cromwell is not the most powerful man in the NHRA? Even he's
Really?
president. You're like, Jack, how's he not? He's president. The most powerful man in the NHRA is somebody I have never met, somebody who I don't see at the races. His name is Peter Clifford, former president, now chairman of the board. Guess what Peter's background is? He is an accountant. He is a bean counter. Okay? Bean counters are essential for your business.
Oh man. There's something shady going on. They're supposed to be a non-for-profit, yet they're paying their president almost $1 million a year. That's crazy. This whole thing sounds shady. And then they got a guy that's on the board that don't know a damn thing about racing.
You got to know your numbers. They're great people. When a bean counter gets in charge, you guys tell me in the comments, what do you think happens? It is not necessarily about product. It is about bottom line year after year. And I often wonder why we don't hear from the most powerful man in the NHRA, Peter Clifford, the chairman of the board. Somebody who, I looked at the stats on there. They've got Peter at, I have a hard time believing he makes less than Glenn Cromwell. According to this website, they got him at $650. That could be pre-bonuses. They mentioned in the comments too, Peter's got to be well north of $1 million.
Dang, they're making that much a year. Hell, maybe I need to go start a non-for-profit or non-profit organization. Hell, let's go do I don't know. Shit, let's go do snail races. We'll do we'll have snail races. Yeah, let's start a non-for-profit with snail races. Shoot, I'll collect all that money tax free. Sounds like there's something shady going on.
A year. But again, where is Peter? So why is this a problem, guys? Let me dissect it. Some massive, massive salaries if you go
Why does he look scared to be up there on that podium? Yeah, that's massive
on
salaries.
down the list too. You've got Ned Wallace, your technical director, approaching $500,000. Evan Jonad in marketing. You've got Josh Peterson, who's the new Graham Light. You're talking mega, mega money. These guys are making, $500,000, close to $500,000 or more. Okay, so what is the problem here? Here's how I see it. And you guys may appreciate this if you've ever been a part of a townhouse community or anywhere that has an HOA. When you own a house,
Oh, you don't want an HOA. Stay away from the HOAs. Oh my God. Unless you just want to be fighting with people all the time. Let's stay the hell away from HOAs, man. No, thank you.
there are very, very obvious flaws with that house. How easy is it for you to take action and change it? I would argue pretty easy. Anybody who's ever been involved in an HOA, have you ever tried to get 5 people to agree on anything, even if it's as simple as, can we paint this fence white? Can we change the lock on the gate? good luck. That might take 6-7 months. So I
Yeah.
believe NHRA greatly suffers from that structure. It's very, very difficult. Now let's think about this, okay? If there is one owner, one
Okay, so if they're non-for-profit, yet they have all these tracks around the United States, they got this massive headquarters, they got the president and all these other people making millions of dollars, but they're not for profit. What the heck's going on?
entity who owns the NHRA and the racers say, hey, we've got all these complaints, we've got all these issues, let's fix it. Said person might be able to take action, right? Might be able to say, hey, let me address this with my customers. If you look at the corporate structure at the NHRA right now, in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinions, it's not people with passion, and that is another problem, the lack of passion. It is people who want to keep their job, who want to go along to get along and keep climbing that ladder to get those big salaries. That's why it is so impossible to get anything done in the NHRA, where, you know, like I've talked a lot.
It's always about the money, man, greed. But you know, greed might be the fall of the NHRA and Top Fuel motorcycles for that matter.
About the IHRA, and trust me, guys, IHRA, they got a lot of work to do. I'm very impressed with what they've done so far, but why I think they may be a problem for the NHRA is right now, one man, Daryl Cuddle, owns it. If he wants to go paint the wall at Columbus, he can go paint the wall and put up a new sign. NHRA, you have to climb this ladder, and until you get to Glenn Cromwell, Peter Clifford, it's a bunch of people who are just trying to keep their job. Why would you want to ruffle any feathers? And to me, that's a real problem right now. And I just think that the way that the NHRA functions with a profit-first mentality, I would love for a man like Peter Clifford to come with Cycle Dragon. Let's go up in the stands. Let's talk to fans. Let's see what they really want. What's missing at these national events? You know, Peter's going to look at things like dynamic ticket pricing. Do we have the opportunity to, if we raise the tickets this much, and even if X amount of people don't come, can our bottom line still increase? That is it. That is the bottom line. My story of working for the IHRA back in 15-16, we lost when Lou Partenza took over. And Lou's a very smart man. He was also an accountant. Also didn't have a lot of passion for drag racing, also didn't come to the races. We were once on a conference call talking about how can we cut costs? What can we do to improve things? Lou's idea was, can we cut the runner-up trophy? That's when
What?
I went like that, because I thought to myself, what's going to happen?
Cut the runner-up trophy. Damn, you know, people are being really tight when they're trying to cut the runner-up trophy. That's how we're going to cut costs.
That man who has been busting his butt drag racing for 40 years makes it to his first final, and we don't have a runner-up trophy for him so that we can save $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year. And that is why I do believe lack of passion will get you in tremendous trouble. So what were we talking about last time? Let's recap. The U.S. Nationals, in my opinion, a shell of itself. The fans just aren't coming out like they were. Now, Reading was great. I'll be the first one for you guys that think that I'm a hater or not rooting for drag racing. I love Reading. I was a newscaster in the Lancaster market, which is 40 minutes from Reading. I made my first pass on my Hayabusa at Maple Grove. Love Maple Grove. And I think what we know now is one of two things are going to happen at Maple Grove. It's either going to rain cats and dogs and nobody's going to show up, or the weather's going to be nice and they're going to pack the place. So a lot of some of the haters online, nanny, boo-boo, Jack, see, I told you you don't know what you're talking about. Scott Hamilton, my buddy El Bandito, posting all these pictures. I love those pictures, Scott. I applaud those pictures. And here's what we got to remember about Maple Grove. There's a reason why Major League Baseball always roots for the Yankees. They don't say this, but the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets. It's because New York, LA, two biggest TV markets, two biggest media markets. So without Englishtown, New Jersey anymore, this Maple Grove is the closest track to that New York market. It is huge. All those fans come over. Philadelphia, I think we still media market number 4, Philadelphia. All those fans coming over for Philly. And yeah, oh, by the way, from a Pennsylvania boy I can tell you Pennsylvania is a red hot racing state. They love their sprint cars, they love their dirt racing, they love their drag racing, they love their motocross, they love it all. Pennsylvania is a great state. So I was happy about that. But now, Scott Hamilton and everybody else and every other podcaster out there that sent me a video, where did all the videos and pictures go when we went to ZMAX Dragway? Because ZMAX was an absolute ghost town, in my opinion. Were there bodies there? Yes, there were bodies. But that is a head scratcher to me that I made some noise about because it just doesn't make.
Holy cow. Look at that, man. There ain't nobody there. They got like one side packed out and that's it. Barely anybody on the other side. That's in North Carolina. Holy shit.
Makes sense. Charlotte, North Carolina, racing country. Is it NASCAR country or is it racing country? I would argue that it's still drag racing country because there's so many drag strips in North Carolina. I think the two healthiest states for drag racing are Ohio and North Carolina because of all the tracks. That's why I think it's dying out in California, that you look at Sacramento Raceway, gone. You look at Fontana, gone. It seems like, frickin' what.
Yeah, because those states are like huge into EV and all this climate change bullshit. They don't want drag racing cars on their tracks, messing up their state, polluting their air. When the state right next to them is going to keep doing drag racing, like Nevada, Arizona. That's kind of like the pollution thing. These people say, "Oh, well, I'm into the whole pollution and EV and clean air, and I'm an environmentalist." It's like, okay, well, that's great, but what's the point in America trying to be clean if the rest of the world ain't trying to be clean? What's the point in us not drilling for oil and getting coal if Russia and China are going to continue drilling for oil and getting coal? Kind of defeats the purpose. We either got to all be on board or not be on board at all. That's what I say.
Was it Bakersfield on the rocks, but still hanging in there? Thank you, Bakersfield. What's the one that escapes me? Irwindale gone. I mean, drag racing was born in California, and now it's dying in California. So it's a tremendous shame. ZMAX is a head scratcher for me.
Hey, what's up, yo?
If you watched on this channel for Super Motocross, totally different, younger demographic. Place was really filled up. Great vibe, great energy. Loved it. NHRA for the second.
Nothing too much, man. We're trying to figure out why the NHRA is dying and why Top Fuel motorcycle class is dying. I mean, I can tell you, people just ain't got the freaking money, yo. Shit's so expensive now. Yeah, they charge too much. Not only that, they just said that the president, I think, is making like almost $1 million a year, and the vice president's making like $500,000 a year, and they're just making ridiculous amounts of money. And get this, all the people that are in charge of the NHRA, they used to race, but all the ones that are there now, none of them have ever raced. They don't know nothing about it. They just have degrees. That's crazy.
Year in a row, because I've been taking videos there 2 years now. I've been watching this. Last year's when I first took notice, and
damn, look at all them empty seats.
I did mention that last year it was a 2 wide. This year was a 4 wide. I made it clear the 2 wide videos were not from this year, but
that's a lot of empty chairs.
Bad turnouts in Charlotte, and it's just a head scratcher for me because it's such a beautiful Bruton Smith racetrack. The Bellagio, they call it. It is a palace. It is wonderful, but the fans in Charlotte are not coming out and supporting it. They've closed one half of the racetrack. When nobody sits in one side, like at Pomona, like at Chicago, when they shut.
Dude, look at that. Look at all these empty seats on the one side, and the other side, there's barely anybody over there. Dang.
Of the grandstands, that's got to be a huge wake-up call. Let me tell you, though, one other thing that I think, and this could come from the board not coming to the races, or if you're a Evan Jonat in marketing, if you are, if you're a Jeffrey Young,
someone deserves a raise
in marketing, maybe you don't want to rock the boat and suggest a whole lot of changes, but here's what I see. When I go to Super Motocross, when I went at ZMAX and also the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, in between a very tight program, which they run a lot tighter program, the duration is shorter, which I said in my last video, I support. Just like Major League Baseball is tightening up, just like all forms of entertainment are tightening up. We run these 4-day marathons at drag races, which I love. The hardcores will always love, but for the general public, they want a nice 3-4 hour show. At Super Motocross, you
Hey, you streaming now, Il? Well, are you streaming on Kick? He might be gone now.
walk around the pits. You can watch freestyle motocross. You can watch a motorcycle stunt show. There's all kind of crazy interactive stuff going on. There's a Monster Energy brings this youthful display and a DJ and a light show, and they're throwing out free Monster, and it's crazy. You know what NHRA has? Spin the wheel and get a free bag of Mission chips. Now, I'm not going to hate on Mission chips because I love you, Mission, and thank you for supporting racing.
Spin a wheel and get a bag of chips. It's crazy.
And I love your chips, even though not too great for the old waistline. I got to watch. I like your chips a lot, Mission. NHRA, if we want to get younger, what in the world, how outdated and boring are your pits? Okay, so how many kids want to look at Skag power equipment? It's great they're there. Thank you, Skag. Probably a lot of guys checking out power equipment, but to get younger, spin the wheel, get a bag of chips. You know what
Ain't gonna
NHRA
cut
should
it,
have?
yeah.
And hey, maybe this is a good idea for these guys. They can take it to the board. We'll see what happens. NHRA should have like 10 simulators set up where kids can get in them. And maybe, I remember when I was a kid, there was a game where you could hit the
Yeah, and
shift
practice
points,
drag
10
racing.
kids race, somebody controlling the carnival, up top, prizes being given out. Kids would be on that stuff all day. There's nothing like that. The pits in my estimation are just totally dead. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying. Clay Milliken, I love you, great ambassador of the sport. Who else did I hear talking? Every ticket's a pit.
See, I think that is part of the problem as well. They got not only are the tickets too expensive, but they don't have anything for the kids to do in the pits. I mean, they can go around and look at all the cars in the pits and listen to the top fuel cars fire up and all that. But, you know, that only goes so far year after year after year. You gotta liven it up a little bit.
Pass, right? I love it. Guys, we've been saying that for 40 years. It's time to evolve. It's time for something new. And the reason I say that, I appreciate all you Nitro teams. I appreciate what you guys can do with the cars. I appreciate tearing it down. I appreciate watching all that. I think it is super awesome. But let's be honest, for the general public, not for us insiders, after you've watched, 7 or 8 thrash sessions, especially kids, how entertaining is that really a selling point?
Yeah, that's not going to
Watch
keep them.
somebody rebuild a team, rebuild a top fuel car. I think it's great. I think it's cool. It is something that is going to always attract me to the sport. But I think that we've been saying that for 40 years, and it's time NHRA needs to evolve.
Something
Entertainment
different.
needs to evolve, and every ticket's a pit pass isn't quite what it used to be. A ticket was a pit pass at Super Motocross finale out at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and that one was pretty cool as well because you could watch the mechanics washing the bikes, working on the bikes, riders out. So I do think that's a good selling point, but not something to hang your hat on as something to bring in this new generation. So
Yeah, for sure.
to recap, guys, we have a board that lacks passion and really lacks vision. And I feel like we've got some dubious statistics out there. And speaking of, okay, so what was another thing that the haters like giving me? The press release that came from the NHRA about the U.S. Nationals. And I had to laugh at this because at my last video, I told you, as a guy who works in television, there's some smoke and mirrors in TV ratings, always has been. We get a press release from the NHRA that says, U.S. Nationals watched by 1 million people. That's awesome. Hey, listen, let me be positive. And a lot of those haters out there, take that,
Record-breaking
Jaxie. They
performance.
weren't at the races. They were watching on TV. Well, let's dissect this. First, NHRA said it was a non-NFL adjacent program. I don't agree with that because I watched it upstairs here at my home, and there was an NFL preview show lead-in. This was not on FS1. This was on Big Fox. That is the key factor. When you go to one of those big networks, there is a built-in audience. I worked at Lucas Oil for a long time, and we did short course racing. We would air on CBS Sports Network, and then we would air on big CBS. It's very expensive because with those big networks, not sports networks, there is a built-in audience. So I am not trying to take a whiz on anyone's cornflakes here. I think it's a
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Fox, they've already got a pretty big following. Or if you were to go to some other big news network. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. But the people that are going after him because of that, that don't. I mean, he is right.
wonderful thing. I love what NHRA is doing. Let's expose it. But I've contacted Nielsen, and if we dove in deeper with that built-in audience and that NFL preview show lead-in, I'd really like NHRA to tell me how many people were watching after 15 minutes. And I'd also like to challenge NHRA that let's reveal the numbers for FS1. Please tell us all the ratings. And I'll take it a step further. Because my man Steve Righteous, executive television producer, I think he does a great job. Long history in this, but Steve and everyone
NHRA
else,
Vice President of Broadcasting.
California and Indy, I have a challenge for you. If you guys want to really be transparent with television ratings, with TV ratings, this is a great way to do it. Run a race free on YouTube and let us watch. Let us watch the numbers. That's what's so cool about this digital age. I revealed my age to you a ways back. I'm certainly no spring chicken, but I'm not over the hill yet. But I'm so thankful.
You really think they're gonna run a free race on YouTube? No, man. The president and the CEO and all that shit, they want their money. Shit, they're trying to cut trophies, trying to save $1,000 a year, which is crazy.
God planted me in this generation because as somebody enamored with media, when I came out of the University of Florida in '05, it was long enough ago, kids are going to laugh at me, I sent out VHS tapes to get my first job. I sent them to all these news stations, right? These small market, Ottumwa, Iowa, Tucson, Arizona, actually Tucson, Alan Reinhardt, sorry. That's a mid-market. It took me a while to get there. What are some of the ones? Beckley, West Virginia, right? That's how you started. And these news stations back then, they were propped up mainly by furniture stores, car stores, and perhaps smoke and mirrors ratings. The way ratings worked back then is the markets weren't even metered. It would be diaries where, I don't know, maybe 30 homes in a market, 60 homes in a market, they'd write down what they watch. Well, as I continued to work in news, what we found out is when they went to a metered market, we found out how wrong the diaries really were. And I thought for all those years, news stations lived and died by quarter rating points. And when they quizzed some of these people that had diaries afterwards, they were talking about news anchors that hadn't been there in a decade. They also found a little interesting aside for you. They found that shows like Inside Edition and the celebrity gossip shows had higher viewership. Game shows actually had lower.
So think of it as like a TV ad with a catalog component where I can choose on the Roku app and immediately.
And my former boss's philosophy was that maybe people were embarrassed to say that they were watching celebrity gossip and wanted to be the people watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Anyhow, I digress about that. Where I'm going with all this, we live in such a wonderful age because YouTube is absolutely amazing and outstanding and everything is transparent. There's nothing to hide behind. And that's why I'm so prideful of my numbers that I try to strive for every single day. That's what we have to do as a content creator, as a media outlet in the year 2025 and moving forward. Your numbers are out there. Your views on Facebook, your views on TikTok, your views on Instagram. I remember when Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee.
Yeah, that's the thing now, social media, man. Everybody's trying to get them clicks, trying to get the views. I mean, shit. You got me on here streaming. But yeah, man, everybody's trying to do it. But yeah, be transparent about it. Don't hide your ratings. I mean, embrace it, whatever it is, it is. You got one person watching, so what? Everybody's got to start from somewhere.
feed for one of the first or second times, like it was astounding to me that you could watch. I think there were over 500,000 people watching, and you could see it because Google was showing you how many people were watching on YouTube, and it was amazing. And I'm like, this is so transparent. This is awesome. So anyhow, Steve Righteous, NHRA, I implore you, please run a race free on YouTube and let us see how many people are watching it. Run the U.S. Nationals on YouTube. Give me a nice...
I don't see them doing that though. I don't see them doing that at all. They ain't gonna do it for free. There's got to be money involved somewhere.
2-3 hours, and we will be able to evaluate it. And I think that's fair to the sponsors that you're approaching that are asking big money for these programs. I think it will help too. I really, really do. And like I said, I'm not trying to knock the sport down. If the numbers are lower than what they are, well, you know what? Maybe Brad Gerber, the vice president and also lead salesman, needs to fix his deck, adjust his deck, bring down prices a little bit, and figure out what he's got to do to bring some of those big names I mentioned
McDonald's.
back in. Bring McDonald's back in. Bring Castrol back in. Bring Bud and Miller back in. Where did everybody go? Why are we seeing this huge exodus from NHRA? So I hope you guys are with me so far. Let me see. I told you, and please leave your thoughts down below as we continue this conversation. I'll try not to be too long-winded, but I could go for a long time about this. Very, very passionate. Have a lot of strong feelings. And again, am rooting for NHRA to be fixed. My fix coming at the end. More feedback from...
I don't think it'll be fixed though.
The first video. First, TV ratings.
First thing that's got to happen, people got to make more money. You know? Shit, there's people working 3 jobs and can't even make ends meet. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's got to be the first thing to be fixed. I mean, NHRA, I'm sure, has got to sounds like they got to fix a bunch of shit. But if the people ain't making the money, it don't matter what an NHRA does. If they can't afford it, they can't afford it.
A little perfidious and deceitful. Let's air this on YouTube and find out who's really interested in NHRA. Another piece of feedback I got, one high-ranking racer watched my video, loved it, agreed with everything except when I talked about quarter mile. He said he sent it to some insiders and they said, yep, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. That is because right now Goodyear is having a massive problem. They can't certify a tire over like 340 miles an hour. So one disclaimer I want to make that I tried to make clear in that first video. When I said we need to go back to quarter mile racing, I am 100% in favor of slowing the cars down. Slow them down. I don't want to see 375. I don't want to see 385. Maybe I don't speak for the majority, but give me good side-by-side racing at 300 miles an hour.
Now, I want to see 400. Come on, we could do 400. Don't slow them down, extend the tracks. Make the tracks longer. No, don't slow them down because people go there to see the top fuel cars doing 350, 340, 330. No, don't slow them down.
That's safer, that's better on parts, that'll bring the cost down. I don't think we'll lose any fans. I think as long as the top fuel dragster still smokes the tires, makes noise, is crazy, unpredictable, rattles your chest, I think a nice 300 mile an hour quarter mile pass would be pretty cool. That's just what I think. Don't want any issues with that. Okay, so I have told you the problem with the NHRA is the board structure. I've heard from people inside the building who work there. It's impossible to get anything done. It's impossible to get anything accomplished. Everybody just trying to stay employed, just trying to climb the ladder, just trying to keep that money flowing in, not rocking the boat. This brings me to an example that I touted last year that a lot of people got with me. Some people got a little bit upset. I talked about Vance and Hines and their Pro Stock motorcycle program. As you guys can see, I'm a big Pro Stock motorcycle fan. That's the leathers of the greatest ever, the late, great Dave Schultz. One of my heroes was affiliated with Vance and Hines for a little bit. Let me clarify my position on Vance and Hines. Absolutely legendary people. Terry Vance, Byron Hines, Andrew Hines. Eddie's a little mean, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Great guys, make great parts, legends. My problem is not with their product or their parts. My problem is with the 40 plus years of what I've perceived as favoritism in the class, a class that I think is now dying, where they make They control the crankshaft market for the Suzukis. They make the billet cases. They make so many of these custom parts, and then they also dominate the category. I've used the example that it took George Bryce 8 years to get his cylinder head approved. It took Vance and Hines months. So I think there's been clear favoritism. Now, I also know the other side of that coin, and that is, I truly believe, without Terry Vance, up there in Glendora, talking to these people, not Glendora anymore, sorry, I'm dating myself, wherever they moved to after they shut down Glendora, there would not be a pro stock motorcycle class. So thank you very much for that, Terry. My point is this: with participation in pro stock motorcycle down to like 11, 12 in some races, with some fans, many fans saying this is boring. No disrespect, because I love pro stock motorcycle, but you look at what no bar bikes are doing right now. You look at the latest and the greatest, and if
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the riders and the people that are like this guy that are into the drag racing, it's what the fans are interested in. I mean, if you're trying to bring in the dollars, you need to do what the fans want. Simple as that.
if you want to get Suzuki involvement and you want to get manufacturer involvement, you look at what motorcycles are doing without wheelie bars and turbochargers right now versus pro stock motorcycle, which seems to just kind of be stagnant and the class kind of stuck in the 80s. I just ask you this. If there was a group of individuals, if I owned it, if you owned it, if we picked out 5 people who loved motorcycle drag racing and I said, give me the best, baddest, somewhat affordable motorcycle drag racing class that 30 people were going to be interested in, and let's do it, and let's maintain parity, and let's figure it out. I think you could do it, right? NHRA is the highest level of drag racing, so the motorcycles there should represent the best, the biggest. Pro Street right now is probably the hottest spectator class that there is. I mean, if you're Suzuki, if you're trying to market, if you're pro,
You know, everybody likes top fuel motorcycles, but yeah, the pro street bikes, pro mod is fun. They're fun to watch, but everybody's interested in the street bikes because they don't have the wheelie bars. Sometimes you see people flip off of them. So believe it or not, some people go there to the races. They want to see accidents. They don't care about whether you make it down the track. They're there to see some accidents.
stock. Why do we have a wheelie bar on the back of the bike? Why, when we have street tires that can go 230 plus miles an hour, why are we still doing this? But my biggest contention is this. Vance and Hines has, I think, had a lot of influence. This is my opinion because of how influential Terry Vance has been in bringing in corporate dollars. My example, Harley Davidson, this is kind of what soured me, guys. I had to go out there as a reporter, as a journalist for 18 years and cover Harley Davidson in pro stock motorcycle, where only Andrew Hines and Eddie Krawick could run the Harley V-Rods. Nobody else could ever get one. 18 years. They won 10 championships. I think that's kind of what wore me out and made me so jaded. Do you know what it's like to cover those races, race after race after race, and to ask questions and to not have them answered, and to have other racers pull?
Why would they only have a handful of Harley Davidson? Why would they not want more people to join in? You would think they'd want to grow that category.
You into their trailer and give you an earful about how unfair this is, but then not say that to Vance and Hines and just kind of try to use you to push forward their agenda, and then have people like Kevin McKenna of the NHRA give Eddie Krawick a standing ovation when he answered a reporter in the crowd saying, "I don't care if you guys don't think this is fair. We'll bring 4 of them." Anyway, it just wasn't good sport. It wasn't good.
We don't care if you don't like. We'll bring 4 of them. That's crazy. Well, they afraid they're gonna get beat?
Competition. It wasn't parity. Why did it exist? I know why it exists. Because Harley Davidson pumped so much money into the sport. So how do I tie this all together? How does this all relate?
It's all about money.
If you were a single entity who wanted the absolute best, the best representation of motorcycle drag racing, you would have fixed that. If you are a board structure who's getting a whole lot of money from Harley Davidson, you're there to not rock the boat. If you're a Brad Gerber, if you're a Glenn Cromwell, if you're a Peter Clifford, why are you going to rock the boat? Who cares that we have 12 other racers complaining? We've got Harley Davidson as a major sponsor. So yeah, let's let the Vance and Hines boys win these championships on these motorcycles that nobody else can have. That's why I think this so neatly ties in, and this is a major problem.
That is
like,
so
for
crazy.
instance, if Bill Bader, and Bill, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm just now realizing this. They got Vance and Hines on a Harley Davidson. That don't make it much sense. Vance and Hines belongs on a Suzuki or like a GSXR 1100. I had never seen Vance and Hines on a Harley.
I always mention Bill Bader's name because I think he's one of the smartest, sharpest, brightest minds in all of drag racing right now. And I don't want to get Bill in any hot water. I haven't spoken to Bill on the phone in a long, long time. So NHRA, I am not speaking on behalf of Bill Bader. He is not one of my sources. I do like to kick things by him. My personal connection to Bill is I think that Summit Motorsports Park, Norwalk, Ohio, the nicest drag strip in the country. You go there, you can tell you're going to somebody's home, right? It's like when you clean up because company's coming. That's the difference between a board structure and somebody who owns it. If Bill wants to go paint said fence, he can go paint said fence tomorrow. If Bill wants to burn the wall down because he wants to put a show on for the fans, he can. So Bill Bader, when I first announced AMA Pro Star Race back in 2001, Scooter Kaiser introduced me to him and said, you got to get with this guy. He really understands it. And the first thing Bill Bader told me is he said, hey, I learned this from my dad, the great Bill Bader Sr. We are not in the racing business. We are in the entertainment business. And I never forgot that about Bill Bader. I went to the Night of Fire, 3 years in a row, Night Under Fire. If you guys have never been there, please check it out. Bill does it every August. It is the most successful one-night drag racing blowout of the year. I talked about this in my last video, and some of you commented, I'm glad you brought up Bill Bader. I'm glad you brought up Bill Bader. Well, the reason I bring up Bill Bader is if you are NHRA and this man packs, Bill would probably give us the number, I don't know, 45,000, north of 45,000, I don't know. However many people Bill Bader packs into his Night Under Fire, that is just a complete and utter sellout extravaganza that I brought my buddy Kyle to, who used to shoot news with me, who really doesn't like racing, who said, boy, that was such an entertaining show. And I'm like, that's how you get the general public right there. If you've never been to that, experience it. But everybody agrees Mr. Bill Bader is one of the best out there. So my question is this. If you were NHRA, if you're Evan Jonat, if you're Ned Walliser, if you're Glenn Cromwell, if you're Bradley Gerber, if you're Joss Peterson, if you're Peter Clifford, why wouldn't you listen to every word Bill Bader says or just turn promotions over to him?
Yeah, for real.
Let's go back to the crux of my argument. Now, if I am one of those people trying to keep my job, why would I want somebody to jump in front of me? Now, if I'm somebody that owns the NHRA and I want it to succeed for the good of the sport, I would. But right now, why don't they listen to every word? Another guy, Royce Miller. Royce Miller, who is a disciple of the Bader family. He learned from Bill Bader Sr. Royce is probably the best operations guy in the country. Tremendous. Maryland International Raceway is another great one. If I have a problem at Norwalk or Maryland, I go to Royce, I go to Bill Bader. These are two guys that can hear you out and they can make decisions. There is no one to go to at NHRA like that. Even Glenn Cromwell can only do so much. And again, guys, because nobody.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's when things get real bad. When you ain't even got anybody you can go to talk about these things. It sounds like NHRA has just gotten so corporate that if there's a problem or anybody has suggestions, you can't reach the people that need to get it or hear their information. That's insane.
Everybody's trying to keep their job. Everybody is trying to stay employed. So I can tell you a story too. Let me tell you a quick one as we wrap this up. And again, I invite your thoughts, your comments down below on what we can do to fix this. And if you haven't watched my first video yet on what is truly wrong with the NHRA and why they're in trouble, watch the first video, then watch this one. I want your comments and potential fixes. I'm going to give you my fix in a second. First, I want to give you another story about what's going on with the media situation in the NHRA. Now, for having conversations like this, if you do
And
anything
we're having media
unsavory,
problems too.
unpleasant, anything but wave those pom-poms, rah-rah coverage, you will not get a media credential, and that is okay. That is their prerogative. That is their right. I would counter with this. If this video, just like the last one, the last one got 122,000 views, 2,600 comments, do you know how wonderful that is for the sport? No matter what the topic was, no matter if the folks in California on the NHRA board don't love it, people are talking about drag racing, and that is a wonderful thing. Because let me spin this to you, all the certain female reporter that I had mentioned, who's now on the NHRA payroll, who had a problem with my reporting. Getting people talking about drag racing is a wonderful thing. Because guess who would love people talking about them right now? Drag boat racing, sprint car racing, hill climb, desert racing. I was at a lot of these, by the way.
Yeah, well, is the is the NHRA associated with them at all? Because if not, they don't want them to do good, and they damn sure ain't trying to promote them. The boat drag racing, and all the other. If they're not in with the NHRA don't give a shit.
Way Vegas to Reno on this channel. Make sure you check it out. There's all forms of motorsports crying out for attention. So a big positive here is there's still a large, and I mean large, number of people who care about drag racing, but we need some tweaks, we need some fixes, we need some passion. We need some people with passion who are going to go sit in the stands, who are going to come to the races, come to the racers and races. Talk to these people. Collaborate with these people. That's what needs to be done. Let me give you my story too about what's going on with the media right now.
You know, John Force is as far as NHRA goes. John Force is probably, if he was to leave the sport, I know he had his daughters in there. I think Brittany is retiring, but if he leaves the sport, man, I think they'll probably be done. I really do believe that. And for those of you who don't know who John Force is, that's him in the blue there with the white hat. And his daughters raced for a while. I know Brittany did. All his daughters raced, but they all retired except for Brittany, and I think she's getting ready to retire.
So there's a man named Jeffrey Young who's in charge of media relations. And I've met Jeffrey Young. I've worked with him. Listen, I'm going to talk professionally, not personally. Personally, I sit down with Jeffrey Young and we go to a baseball game. I'd probably really, really like the guy. On a professional level, and I'm pretty good at sniffing these things out, he strikes me exactly as one of the people that I just described, somebody with little to no passion for the product or drag racing, somebody desperately trying to keep his job, somebody trying to get along to go along, somebody trying to climb that ladder.
Yeah,
why do I know that? It's because the conversations I've had with him, I've pitched things to him, I've talked about different ways to get pro stock motorcycle more exposure. They've kind of fallen on deaf ears. Really haven't got much of a response, haven't got much communication. I thought it was just me. I've talked to other members of the media and they said it's the same exact vibe. I've talked to people that work under him and they said the same exact vibe. This is the mark of somebody with an Ole Miss education who comes from a bull riding background, who is great friends with Ned Walliser, who's trying to hang on to his job and climb the ranks. And in my opinion, it is people like that that are hurting the product. Now, just to show you I'm not all negative, I want to give a shout out and be very, very positive. There is a man in the media room. I hope I don't get him in trouble. And I hope I get his name right. Josh Hachat. Hachat, parlez-vous français? Is it French or is it Hachat? Guys, Josh is 180 degrees out of what I just described with Jeffrey Young. This man's at every single race. If you have ever read an NHRA press release, it's probably written by him. Oftentimes with Josh, I would shut down the media suite because we'd be there till the wee hours of the night finishing up. Josh runs the interviews and does a great job with the press conferences. Josh is attentive. Josh is friendly. He is nice. He seems to really enjoy his job and enjoy racing. He's pretty buff too, so he's probably got a good work ethic. You can tell that. But anyhow, a couple nights ago, I went to my computer here, and for the heck of it, I looked him up. I'm like, where'd this guy come from? 10 years, or I don't know if it was 10 years, don't quote me on that, but he came from the ADRL, came from drag racing. Okay, this is exactly the kind of guy who has the passion that NHRA needs. I think you should put Josh on the board right now.
Yeah, you got to have somebody that's into the NHRA. I mean, if they're not passionate about it, and they're just there to collect money and dollars, It's going to go downhill. Shit's not going to get any better. You got to have people that are passionate about it. I mean, that's just crazy. Why would you know that that's where a lot of businesses fail, even small businesses. You'll see small businesses, they'll start and they'll be really, really good because the people that started it, they're passionate about it, but then they either get bought out by somebody or they want to try to get employees in to run it so they don't have to run it. Well, if the employees that you hire aren't as passionate about the business as you are, it's going to go downhill because things are going to start slacking. Like, let's say if it's a restaurant, say you were cooking all the food. Well, now you want to hire employees. You're not the one cooking all the food anymore. These people are just throwing shit together and it's not the same. And then all of a sudden you start seeing your business go downhill. And a lot of times, once it starts going downhill, it's hard to recover from it. Once you get a bad reputation, it's hard to correct ship. Hopefully NHRA can do it. I don't know. We'll see, I guess, in the next few
Is that
years.
great? Like you look at Jeffrey Young, this is a man who came from bull riding, who, from my estimation, my opinion, doesn't really have a passion or a love for drag racing. I could tell by the questions that he asked me. I could tell by his impression of what I was doing. I could tell by the lack of communication. The lack of races he actually attends tells me he really doesn't have a passion for the product. From my conversation with him, more of an F1 guy, and that's okay. But people like Josh who run that media suite should be promoted. That is
Yeah.
what you need, people who love drag racing. Because let's face it, if we all want to get rich, we could do many things, and motorsports doesn't have to be one of them. That's why all these people in the nitro ranks that have successful businesses, this is their hobby. This is their passion, and it goes back to that quote that I got from said racer, and that is, we would never tolerate this kind of attitude and this structure and this pushing us around mentality in business, but we tolerate it in drag racing because we all have a passion for it. That is another thing too, guys. These racers need to be valued as the
Dude, you know what they ought to do if they got the money, because I think he said one guy was spending like $9 million a year just to race his Top Fuel funny car, which is insane. So these it sounds like these drivers ain't even making money. They're just doing it. They're just doing it as a hobby, I guess. Like, what the hell is the point in doing it if you ain't making money? That's crazy. So most of these guys are just doing it on their own dollar.
customer. Okay? They're spending $9+ million a year to go racing.
It's just me here, but the gates are open. I
$9
saw
million
smoke this
just to
morning.
go
We've got
racing.
land to
Dang.
grow food.
They should be number one. I told you back in the day, NHRA was the boss. NHRA was the boss when it was much healthier, much stronger. Corporate sponsorships were in there. They told you where to go, and you had to go there to fulfill your obligations. Now, with all these privately funded individuals, I have a challenge for you because I respect all of you so much. So, Alan Johnson, Mr. Pro, Coletta, you guys are great with what you've done for the sport. Tony Stewart Racing, Mike Salinas Valley Services, Capco, all of you guys. John Force Racing. When is it time to push back against this board? Push back. We've seen a little pushback. There's more stories that we can get into later with what happened with the Pro Superstar Shootout
Yeah.
and West Buck.
Take the board down. Take them down. Let's go. Let's get rid of them. March down there. Let's get them out of the offices.
Involvement with all this and how West really isn't involved anymore. And we can tell those stories at a later date. I'm not going to make this a 3-hour video. But what I'm talking about now is when is enough for you guys to put your foot down and say, listen, we want a single owner. We want $2 million shed out of this board right now, and we want to put it into championship funds and payouts because that's where it should be. You got a president making $1 million. You got board members north of $1 million. You got operation guys at $500,000. Your technical director at $500,000. And these are all people.
Yeah, they should have, at least for the top fuel category. I don't know about like the pro stock, but at least the top fuel category, they should at least have, a prize for them to work towards. I mean, shit, if these people are spending 9 million a year just racing as a hobby because their businesses can afford to fund it, at least they could recoup some of the money back if they win a championship. Dang. I didn't realize they weren't getting paid. That they were using their own
People
money.
that really can't get anything done because they just want to keep their job. At what point is it time to push back and say this structure isn't working? It's not working for us. It's not putting us in the best light possible. What did I say in my last video? This organization can't cultivate new stars. John Force and Big Daddy Don Garlitz are still the two biggest names. It's time to truly build new stars. A star is somebody who sells tickets. You need to get with new age marketing. Look at what is being done in other younger forms. I keep complimenting Super Motocross. Guys, they got it. They, as predicted, they outdrew NHRA at ZMAX, and I guarantee you, when NHRA visits the strip in Las Vegas, they outdraw them in Las Vegas with a much younger demographic, with the things that they are doing, with the value they are providing. And I know that a lot of those people are on site. They have a very, very good media relations person over there who...
You know what another thing is too? Is, the older generations, they didn't have internet. They didn't have game consoles. They didn't have video games. The only thing they had is go places, go to races, be part of racing. So I could see where, now that what the generation is now, you got the internet. It used to be if you wanted to go see drag racing, you actually had to go see drag racing, right? They didn't have internet and you didn't see it on TV. Now, if you want to see drag racing, just pull up YouTube. You can watch it for free. And you ain't got to spend like $100, $150 a ticket, whatever it is they're spending now, you know, or whatever they're charging now, not spending. But yeah, I mean, you go on YouTube and watch it for free.
is very passionate about the product and cares. This is somebody I've seen at every single race who cares. That is the difference. When NHRA has a media relations guy who's hardly ever there, when Cycle Drag is getting ready to beat NHRA, this is one of my goals, beat NHRA in Facebook followers. NHRA is at like 1.8 million. Cycle Drag Facebook's at almost about 1.7. So I hope this challenges NHRA to get busy on Facebook, because my goodness, I've offered to help. I've offered Jeffrey Young help. It's fallen on deaf ears. Just like everybody else has fallen on deaf ears. We've thought of ways to promote some of you racers out there. And guess what? Some of you racers got to think outside the box too.
Wouldn't that be crazy though if he does pass NHRA? That's sad. It sounds like he's been trying to help the sport, man, and they're just nobody's really listening to him. That's crazy. Watch, I bet you he'll end up doing something big that all of a sudden NHRA will be coming crawling to him like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we want in on the deal or whatever." And who knows, maybe these guys, since they got $9 million to throw away each year, maybe they start maybe one of them will start their own organization. Just put the NHRA out for good.
The onus is on you. When I say create stars, a lot of you, you got to remember, just like that Bill Bader comment that I made, this is the entertainment business. What made John Force such a draw? Well, number one, he was one heck of a racer, just like many of you are. Number two, when you put that microphone in front of his face, you never knew what he was going to say. And no matter what he said, you either had a smirk on your face or your jaw dropped. If he was in the wrestling business, would say, John Force could cut a promo. He's an entertainer, and everybody out there should be an entertainer on the mic. I really like what I'm seeing out of Matt Hagan. I think he's got so much potential. I mean, he's already bona fide champion.
Funny car champion.
This stuff that he's doing with Race Day Fit, hilarious, funny. All racers should be doing that 100%, because I think some racers give up It's too easy, you guys. I see this in the pro stock motorcycle ranks too. You got to remember, I don't want to slay any egos out there because racing is about egos. But remember, who's selling tickets? And I think a lot of racers, when they show up and they start signing autographs, it goes to their head. I'm a star. I'm a draw. Guys, in that NHRA environment, you know, we could probably put anybody in a crew shirt, put them in front of a table with handouts, and they're going to sign autographs. That does not mean you are selling tickets. And NHRA needs to help you sell tickets, which means we need to entertain people. Nobody ever said, man, I was too entertained at that. That event was too entertaining. That movie was too entertaining. That race was too entertaining.
Yeah, them bleachers should be packed out.
Entertainment, storyline, rivalries, which we need to create and cultivate. And everybody who has an opportunity to talk on that microphone, everybody should take it as an opportunity, not just to, of course, you got to thank your sponsors, you got to thank the people, but wasn't John Force the greatest at this? He would always find a way to work in his sponsors in a way that wasn't the typical, I want to thank Castrol GTX. No, we've heard that. The fans have heard that. Force would do it in a way that would just knock your socks off and entertain you, and that's why he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. I mean, John Force, Big Daddy Don Garlits, two unbelievable legends. And I just look at the... Let me talk, too, about one thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of... There's two names you think of in drag racing when we're talking about cars, Top Fuel, and motorcycle Top Fuel. When you mention Top Fuel cars, is John Force. No question. When you're talking Top Fuel motorcycles, it's always Spider-Man, Larry McBride. Always. Those are the two top names for those two classes.
This could open up a whole can of worms. And this is something, Jeffrey Young's one of the individuals I talked about in charge of marketing, and I saw him at a symposium talking about this Women of Power initiative. Now, what I think right now is awesome is that NHRA is the most diverse motorsport. 1,000%. These women are unbelievable, bad to the bone. The fastest woman in the world right now, Brittany Ford.
Yeah, Brittany Ford.
She is a bad, you know what, not going to say the word. She's awesome. She checks all the boxes. She is tremendous, okay? But here's what I feel, and follow me on this one. You know, pushing this Women of Power initiative right now as the number one thing up front. That's kind of the selling point. We have Women of Power. Come see our Women of Power.
Look, man, I'm not against it, man. I know Brittany Force had broke a speed record, if I remember right. But you can't just be pushing. I think when you start pushing gender, whether it's male or female, or you start talking about race or we're inclusive, all this bullshit, I think you alienate a certain part of your audience. You need to try not to be super political. You can be a little bit political, but stay away from the gender type politics. I say politics, but you know what I mean. You don't want to alienate part of your fan base. You're already struggling as it is. I'm not saying they shouldn't be pushing the women's thing because, like I said, there's Brittany Force, John Force's daughter. I think she broke the record 343 miles an hour. You know, I have no problem with it, but don't push it so much that you start to alienate the guys, right? But at the same time, you don't want to push the guys to where you start alienating the females. You know, it's kind of like there's a fine line there. You gotta try to promote both, try to keep it equal. You don't want to start alienating certain groups of people, especially when you're already hurting for fans as it is.
I think it's awesome, but again, just like I said about the Clay Millican and these other guys about every ticket's a pit pass, guys, we've been saying it for 40 years. Shirley Muldowney was a woman of power and kicked some butt. Angèle Sampé, I watched her in 1996 show she was a woman of power, 3-time NHRA champion, absolute backbone diva. She's awesome, and that's why I'm glad to still see her with the NHRA. So my question is this, is that really what's going to sell tickets? Who in NHRA right now thinks that the Women of Power marketing initiative is the number one thing to bring people in? Meaning that if Peter Clifford, Jeffrey Young, Evan Jonat,
I hate to tell you guys, like, man, I understand there's some women that love drag racing, maybe, and they're into that, and there's some that are into sport. But let's be honest, probably, I'd say 80, 85% are too busy making TikToks and on OnlyFans and trying to get clicks and likes to even care about a drag racing show. That's just my opinion, but I think that is the reality. Because usually when I go, the two times that I've went, um, female spec, I mean, there was females there, of course, because some of them come with their husbands and stuff, but the majority of the people there were male, and that's not being sexist. It's just calling it what it was, man. There was more guys there, you know. So yeah, I mean, look, I know there's women in the sport that love it. That's great. And the thing is believe it or not, most of these women probably wouldn't love the sport if their fathers wasn't in it. That's like Brittany Force, his Ashley Force. I can't remember the name of his other daughter. They grew up around it, so that's why they liked it and loved it. Their dad did it, and they got involved. And most of the ones that did get involved, they had a family member that was involved in it already. You take somebody that wasn't around it, didn't grow up in it. I would say male or female, they're 9 times out of 10 not going to be as interested. And with social media now, everybody's trying to make everybody jealous on social media, posting shit on Facebook, posting TikTok videos, showing the good parts of their life. Never see the bad parts. You're only seeing like maybe 0.5% of their life, but you think their life is great because they're only posting the good stuff. You're not seeing all the bad shit. And honestly, if you're spending all your time posting stuff on Facebook, I know you're not having fun. Because if you were having fun, you don't even grab your phone. You don't even look at your phone. Hate me if you want to.
Glenn Cromwell, Bradley Gerber all went up into the stands and talked to people that come to NHRA races and said, "What are you here to see?" Would they say women of power?
What?
And I think, hey, it's awesome, man. You look, I mean, you got so many great women. Please don't misconstrue me in any way. Erica Enders, total bad to the bone lady. Leah Pruitt, awesome racers. But I think the fans care more about not just the fact that you're a woman, but who's your rival? What makes you tick? What are you going to say next?
They just want to see a good
what
race.
are these
They don't care
personal
who's on the
things
bike.
about you that I'm attracted to right now? That's my issue. And I did notice, like I said, Jeffrey Young, who the Ole Miss product, the bull riding specialist, this is what he is pushing and peddling.
Oh my gosh. Look, I'm all for that. But wouldn't it be hilarious since we're in this day and age anyways? I'm so gonna get canceled. Maybe we should have a trainee class. Just have have a trainee class or a woke class. I mean, if we're gonna be pushing shit and we want to be modern, let's just have like a woke class where you got, I don't know, lesbians and dykes and gay dudes. They got their own class and they race against each other. And maybe we put them all on pink motorcycles and pink cars. I bet you that'll draw a crowd. Hey, you guys think I'm crazy? That might draw a crowd, man. People might come to see that shit.
So hard right now. And I just wonder, is that the number one marketing hook for the NHRA? Let me know your thoughts on that down below. No offense, ladies, because I love you. And let me tell you, I've had my behind whipped several times. We found that out long ago. The ladies can beat the boys in drag racing, and that is what makes this a great, inviting sport that is very, very diverse, that is open to all types of people. I just don't know if that's a marketing hook in this day and age. I don't know. As I said before, leave me
Yeah, there you go.
your
See, pink
thoughts
car.
down below. So guys, I think at this point we should wrap this one up. I told you I could talk for a little while. I'm just getting warmed up too. We might have to do these more often. My fix. Here is my fix. And
Okay, what's the
pie in the
fix?
sky. I don't know if it can happen. My fix is this board structure needs to go away. NHRA needs to be sold.
Sounds like
It needs
it.
to be sold to somebody. Who has enough money? I don't know. Pro, where you at, guys? You know, Mr. Coletta, Mr. Salinas, Mr. Torrance, Mr. Stewart. NHRA has to be sold. Because right now, if you look at what Daryl Cuddle's doing with the IHRA, how he's buying up tracks left and right, he's improving them left and right, he's getting stuff done. It's efficient. It's very, very efficient because it's one man calling the shots. We don't have that in the NHRA. We have a not-for-profit organization that, from the numbers that I've seen, has a gross revenue of about 90 million, profit of about 5 million, highly paid executives that...
See, I don't get that. That don't make sense to me. How are they not for profit, but these people are making big dollars? That, like the CEO and the top guys. That don't make no sense.
Hey, great people that work at the NHRA. As I said before, I'm not an NHRA hater. I love the NHRA. Don't hate the people that work at the NHRA. I hate the way the NHRA is run. I hate the fact that when I've been at many national events, I look around and where's the employees? Everybody's back at the hotel. Why is that? Because Peter Clifford needs to keep this P&L sheet sharp and keep his expenses low. But Peter Clifford's not here to talk to the man who just took his whole family for their 3-month big expenditure to sit up in the bleachers and watch the action here today. I don't see it happening. There's no boots on the ground. There's no passion. There's no vision. And all these legends that have been exiled from the NHRA, come on, guys.
Sounds just like corporate greed, y'all. It sounds like they're just going to try to siphon as much money as they can out of it, and then when the bridge burns, it burns.
Come on, because you've had some great ones that should still be there. And I'm telling you right now, Alan Reinhart should still be announcing races at the NHRA. Mike Dunn should still be involved in the television program. Don Garlitz should still be at your races on the regular. Larry Dixon should still be there on the regular. Legends like Joe Amato and Gary Scelzi and Whit Bazemore and Kenny Bernstein should be visible at all times. And one last thing I forgot to mention while I wrap this up too is I talked about how important Tony Stewart is right now, even more important than ever, because we found out not only are we losing John Force, Brittany Force is now stepping away to, I believe have a child. Congratulations, Brittany. That is your
she's
right.
stepping
that is your
away.
prerogative. Thank you for good luck having a child, and thank you for everything you've done for NHRA drag racing. Hope to have you back. Tony Stewart, who it's announced he will be back next year, thank goodness, because I talked about the value of having Tony Stewart there, and although he has big shoes to fill with the absence of John Force, Tony Stewart is his own man, his own legend, and exactly what I told you about that crossover appeal. I watched some of the podcasts, Dale Jr. and Bubba the Love Sponge and a lot of these other guys talking about Tony Stewart, talking about how he's the regular season champion, talking about his crash with Mr. Coletta out there. And when you got motorsports giants talking about you, that's a wonderful thing. That's why Tony Stewart right now in the NHRA, every single racer should walk up to his trailer, shake his hand and say, thank you so much. I know in WWE, they used to tell Hulk Hogan, thank you for the house, Terry. His name was Terry Bollea. God rest his soul. God bless him.
Yep, he's gone.
Hogan would fill it up not just at Madison Square Garden, but when you were running, Cedar Rapids on a Tuesday night and it was sold out and Hulk Hogan was on the card, thank you for the house. We ought to be saying thank you for the house, Tony, because he's not the only reason, but he's a huge part of it. A lot of people coming out to see Tony Stewart 100%. And of course, all the other action. But we need to grow new stars. We need to cultivate new stars. My goodness.
Yeah,
And
all the
let's
old
get
ones
Bill
are
Bader on the
getting out.
phone tomorrow. Bill, I hope I didn't get you in trouble. I have not been talking to Bill. Please turn over all marketing and communications to Bill Bader. Let's please enhance the pit area. Let's get some simulators. Let's get some stuff for the kids. Let's get some fun and enjoyable activities. Let's find a way to bring these old school Fortune 500 companies back. Let's bring the legends back. Let's be more transparent with our television ratings. Let's go to work on social media. Cycle Drag should not be beating you on YouTube, and we are.
Your home might be worth a lot more now, but if that
That's
equity is locked
crazy.
up, you can't take advantage of it now. And that's the tough part. Your equity is
And Jeffrey Young, I've tried to help you.
Good for him, though, that he's beating them. Isn't that crazy? He's got more subscribers than a big corporate NHRA.
But you don't want my help, but that's okay.
Oh, dang.
Anyhow, I digress, guys. One owner, that's the big thing. Can somebody step up and buy it? I don't have anything confirmed. There are rumors behind the scenes that this has potentially been shopped around or at least discussed, the sale of NHRA. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I think that would be the absolute best fix. And guys, I thought about this. I mean, this is crazy to say, but Daryl Cuttle is buying everything. Could Daryl Cuttle be making a bid to buy the NHRA? I don't know. But you know,
Be crazy.
somebody. I know that those pro racers who I've challenged,
Somebody's got to
they've
save
got
it.
the money. They've got the wherewithal. And I think they realize I'm not telling them anything they don't know. You are the show. The Tony Stewarts, the Force, Coletta, Salinas, all you guys. You are the ones spending millions and millions of dollars to put on a show. You do not need this highly paid, dare I say overpaid, executive structure and board telling you what to do when every race is not a jam-packed sellout. In fact, I hope we see more Maple Groves. That's what I want to wrap up with, guys. I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for drag racing. I'm rooting for all forms of drag racing. I wouldn't be at the track every weekend if I wasn't. Check this channel. Since my last little video here from my office, I've been to, any IHRA races, 3 different super motocrosses. Over on Cycle Drag, you'll see where we're going. You'll see where we're going next. So, of course, I love this stuff. I don't want anything to die. I want to see improvement. And maybe we'll be able to talk to some of the higher-ups about this. But I implore every single one of them. We need passion. We need positive change. And that means deviating away from people who are just hanging on to their job, trying to stay employed. That is what is hurting the NHRA, my friends. I invite you to leave all your comments down below. Let's see if we can beat the last
That
video.
was good.
2,600 comments. Don't
I was
know if we can do
wondering
that,
what
but
was happening
thank you guys
to-
so much. Do appreciate it. Again, coming from a place of love. You guys are awesome, whether you're a lover or...
I was kind of curious of what was happening with him because I noticed I haven't been to the races, but I've been watching. I've seen them on TV and stuff, and even on TV, like the stands have just been kind of bare, like nobody there. It's crazy. Okay, let's go. Now I want to get into another one real quick, where he was talking about the Top Fuel motorcycle category is about to be out because I know I don't know if it was this very last race, but it was recently that they had only 2 Top Fuel motorcycles show up to race. 2, which means they only had 1 pair of Top Fuel motorcycles to go down the track. That's just crazy. So let's and it's from the same dude here. So let me see if I can find it. I haven't watched it. I know he put a video up about it though. New record. Where was this? Come on, where was it at? Nope, that ain't it. All right, let's see. Let's see. Racing Jack, Top Fuel, motorcycles in trouble. No, we know about that. No, tragedy strikes Top Fuel. That's not it. Top Fuel. Damn it. Why can't I pulled it up yesterday? Let's see. Maybe if I just put Top Fuel motorcycles in trouble. Now it's probably just going to show us freaking accidents. Is it over? How to save? This might be it right here. The rise and fall of the world's fastest nitro motorcycles. Yep, this is it. Yeah, that's Spider-Man Larry McBride there.
So it won't be long. I think you're going to see 8 bike fuel and Top Fuel.
Oh, guys, it's a subject I got to talk about that I don't want to talk about, but what did Bon Jovi say? Shot through the heart, and you're to blame. Top Fuel Motorcycle, you are to blame. Guys, I hope not, but did we just see the death, the unofficial death of Top Fuel Motorcycle? Hello, everybody. My name is Jack Corpella from Cycle Drag. I'm sure you've followed this channel. If not, welcome. And if you know anything about my channel,
That would suck so bad because those things are fun to watch, man. Top Fuel motorcycles they're no joke. They're fun to watch. Dangerous, but fun to watch.
going to races since I was 3 years old. Going to turn 43 this week, so you can do the math on that. Have been covering Top Fuel Motorcycle for a long time. If you don't know what Top Fuel Motorcycle is, it is a supercharged inline four-cylinder motorcycle. Burns nitro. These things are amazing. My dad started taking me to races at ADCO, New Jersey, the U.S. Nationals, and we got to see legends like Elmer Trett, and we got to see legends like, back then Brian Johnson and Ron Webb, and back then Larry Spider-Man McBride was still involved, and it was great to see him, and he's still involved now. But guys, there's a big, big problem, and I had to make a video about this because I feel passionate about it.
Okay.
Some things we have to discuss.
Let's discuss it.
If you watched the NHRA Charlotte race on NHRA.tv, you noticed that there were 2 Top Fuel motorcycles there. Why does
That's
that hurt
crazy.
me so bad?
That's
Well,
it.
let me back up for a little bit. A long time ago, Top Fuel motorcycles used to run in the NHRA as an exhibition category. Unfortunately, we lost who many believe is the greatest of all time, definitely one of my favorites, Elmer Trett, legend, innovator. He died on his motorcycle at the 1996 NHRA U.S. Nationals. Was really just a horrific event, put a dent in the sport of Top Fuel motorcycle racing that was hard to come back from. The Top Fuel motorcycles did continue for a few more years as an exhibition basis there, but then what coincided with Harley Davidson coming in is the Top Fuel motorcycles were kind of put out to pasture. They were exiled, right? That is when they went back then. ProStar was rocking and rolling, an organization that I got my start with, that I loved, that I announced my first drag race.
Yeah, I
Back
remember
then, they did
ProStar
8 to 10
and
Top
AMA.
Fuel motorcycles, people from overseas. But then eventually ProStar started to run out of steam. It was sold to AMA Drag Bike. They started to run out the steam. Here comes Jay Regan. Great promoter with the Man Cup. He had a wonderful idea. He starts up Man Cup. Man Cup was a great home for Top Fuel motorcycles for a while, right? Weren't racing in front of sold-out crowds, but the World Finals was pretty dang good at Valdosta. And I would be there every single year, filming. Loved it. Developed quite a close relationship with Larry Spider-Man McBride. Did his PR for 20 years. Appreciated him so much that, hey, did you say this? Didn't send him a bill. Don't even say it, because guys, I'm not working for free anymore. Got to at least give me some dang peanuts. But it was a good relationship and a good run with Larry McBride. But I felt so passionate about Larry being like family. That's what he always said. You're like family. You're like family. He repeated that to me constantly. And I felt so passionate about this class that I knew we had to get these guys back to the NHRA. We had to. We had to, because Man Cup was awesome, and I wanted them to always stay in Man Cup, but we would go to when you go to Darlington, I remember, that was a really bad race, unfortunately. It was just hot, and there's only 3 people in the stands, and we got to get these Top Fuel motorcycles to a bigger audience back at the NHRA. Well,
Yeah,
Tom
for
McCarthy,
real.
God,
You only
God
got
bless
3
him,
people
he
there.
tried in 2016. He wanted to do it for, what would that would have been the anniversary of Elmer Trett's death. NHRA said, no way, not doing it. It's a quick no. So when I started I was in the shop of Larry and Steve McBride around 17, 18, I said, guys, we got to do it. And they said, Tom McCarthy already tried. It was a quick no. No way it's ever going to happen. We'll never go back to the NHRA. They're never going to have us. After what happened to Elmer, with how fast we're going, it's never going to happen. That brought me to, let me see if I get my years right, in 2019. This comes after 2 years of running the IDBL, which was the International Drag Bike Racing Association, where I really tried. I tried everything in my power to build Top Fuel. Royce Miller, who was running Maryland International Raceway, had a little bit of a problem with Top Fuel. And Royce is a smart businessman. And this is something not a lot of the racers see. It was hard to get Larry booked for a match race because Royce would simply say, here's what they cost. Maybe it was 10 grand. Are we going to sell 10 grand of tickets for these guys? And every promoter, good promoter, is willing to do it once or twice. But I had a hard time getting Larry McBride and Dave Vantine booked. But me being such a huge Top Fuel motorcycle fan, we got them booked every chance we could. In fact, there was a guy running the IHRA at the time named Chris Lincheski who agreed to actually give Larry McBride a $5,000 bonus just for being a part of the IDBL. It's something that I helped broker, and I was so happy to, any way I could help Larry McBride, Spider-Man, that's what I was willing to do. So eventually, IDBL is dissolved. I don't have a platform anymore, and the Top Fuel motorcycles are no longer with the XDA, which I get comes down to dollars and cents, and that's a problem that these guys have to realize. When you're down to just 2 of them, a match race is only going to last for so long. But anyhow, I said, I'm on a crusade. Let's get these bikes back to the NHRA.
I think it's safe to say that if you're down to 2 bikes, you're in trouble. You're in serious trouble.
McBride and Larry McBride in the shop saying, you will never
But how the hell did that happen to begin with?
2019, I am at Anaheim Supercross. I walk into
So I used to see like
whole club. I forget what they call it now.
10 runs down the track. They'd have like 20
where all the
bikes.
cool kids hang out. It's next to the media suite. I didn't belong there. I'm no cool kid. I'm no high-ranking executive. I'm working media, but I peeked into the thing. There are legends in there. Davey Coombs is in there. Jeremy McGrath is in there. But I look over and there's Glenn Cromwell, Jessica Hatcher, who at the time was NHRA's PR representative, media, I don't know exact title, and Evan Jonat, who's still their marketing representative. I sat down, struck up a nice conversation, and didn't want to bother them because they were watching Supercross. I was busy, but I had a card, and it had Larry McBride on it, and I just remember giving it to Glenn Cromwell and saying, Mr. Cromwell, we got to get these bikes back to the NHRA somehow. And Glenn said, I remember that guy. Oh, cool, let's talk. That started a discussion, and it was really 3 hard years of couldn't do it. Well, then something happens. Harley Davidson pulls out. Do I know that this was a coincidence? Do I know that this coincided? I don't know, but I do know this, that the Top Fuel motorcycles are not Harleys. They're 4-cylinders. Top Fuel Harley is a separate class. Top Fuel Harley Davidson pulls out as a sponsor. All of a sudden, NHRA is much more agreeable and amicable when it comes to having conversations about this. At first, they were I remember one of the things Evan pointed out is like Larry doesn't.
Yeah, because they were probably getting money from Harley. So they didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to bring in inline 4s, Suzukis, and Kawasaki's or whatever motors they were running. So Harley pulled out, and then they're like, okay, hey, we're friends again.
Doesn't really have that big of a following. His Facebook page only has 12,000. That was one of the things that he said. And I said, hey, I cover him on Cycle Drag. Look at our following. I'll pump it. I'll help NHRA. Look at how big he is. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put a ticket code on Cycle Drag where people can buy their tickets and NHRA can track how many tickets these guys are selling. So the conversation really started to take off. Well, then, beginning of 2020, I gave Larry McBride a present. I gave him a ticket on my own dime to fly to Corona, California, where I was living at the time, working for Lucas Oil. That trip was twofold. We put Larry on television calling the Man Cup finals, which I nicely got Lucas Oil Studios to record because I love drag bike racing. I was doing a show called On the Edge, and they got to record Valdosta. Brought Larry in as a color commentator. Guess what else we did? I set up a meeting at Glendora. So I hand-delivered the Spider-Man Larry
NHRA.
McBride to Glendora, and we sat down, and all the bigwigs were there. The Evan Jonat, the Jessica Hatcher at the time. She's since moved on. She's no longer there. Josh Peterson, I believe, was there. And they were all there. Lewis Bloom was there. That's how long ago this was. And we're just pitching Top Fuel Motorcycle to them, and they love it. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. And I'm like, let's do it. We just heard let's do it in 2019 or 2020. Top Fuel Motorcycle hasn't been the NHRA in 20 years. And I heard let's do it. Well, then somebody comes down the steps, and I'm like, Larry, let's get a picture with this person. We get a picture. Afterwards, Larry says, hey, who was that? I said, that's Glenn Cromwell, president of the NHRA. He knows who you are. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So we were all set. We called Dave Vantine on the phone, Nitro Joe, his guy said, guys, we're
So where did everything go to shit?
Sounds
Sounds like everything was good. Something tells me it has to do with greed and money, y'all.
Then what happened? COVID. In fact, 2 weeks
COVID.
later, the bottom fell out. So now it was like, oh gosh, where do we stand now? Basically, the whole NHRA season got canceled. We're going to pick this up next year. And they did pick it up next year. So I believe it was 2021, ran as an exhibition. Larry goes out there to his home track in Virginia, smashes a mile-an-hour record. I cover it on Cycle Drag like I always do. And the seed is planted where Ned Walliser, technical director, is now on board, and we want to make a class. Let's make a class out of this. And Ned is saying the same things I'm saying is, this is the only way we're going to get youth into this sport. This is the only way we're going to get more entries into this sport. So they run exhibition for a couple years.
Yeah, bring the Top
and
Fuel Motorcycles to
finally,
NHRA.
talks get serious at the end of 23. Now, love Ned. Here's the problem with Ned. Ned was driving this, and Ned was telling us that he had the stroke, the clout, the power, and Larry texts me and calls me and says, Ned keeps saying, where's the money, where's the money, where's the money? I'm like, well, what do you mean, where's the money? It's like, well, they aren't going to get sponsorship for us. There's a fee associated for this to be a class. That's what we need it to be. Now, this is where I come in, right? Because these guys are awesome at riding their motorcycles. I am no pro, I'm no wizard, but you're talking about guys, God bless them, that they are not sales deck guys. They are not salesmen. They are racers. At this point, it's Larry McBride and Bob Malloy trying to go out, find funding. And they're talking with Ned Walliser saying, where's the money? Where's the money? NHRA at this point looking for $60,000 to run 4 races. 40 of that would be for the purse. 20,000 of that would go to NHRA just for hosting the series. So.
Shit, they got to pay to race? What the? NHRA, shit, they're paying them CEOs and all them millions of dollars a year. Why the hell do the racers got to pay to race? That don't make sense.
All these talks happen, and I say, guys, see what you can do. Months later, nothing's happening. Finally, I say, I got to step up and get involved. I have got to step up and get involved and help pro bono, just because that's the only way we're ever going to do this. We want to see Top Fuel Motorcycles back in the NHRA. God bless them. These guys, you know, like Bob Malloy, for instance, got a lot of respect for him as a Nitro Harley racer, where it's difficult, where let's say we all got strengths and weaknesses. Let me pick my words carefully. Bob's never had a major sponsor. I've tried to help Bob. I went to the U.S. Nationals with Bob when Kenny Koretsky of Nitro Fish sponsored his Nitro Harley. And I said, Bob, let's do a video. Nah, I don't want to do it. Bob, did you take the Nitro Fish announcement up to Lewis Bloom and Alan Reinhardt? Did they know? Nah, don't worry about it. Bob, so these are guys that I don't know if they know how to foster sponsor relationships. Like I said, they're racers. They're not marketing guys.
Right. They just want to race.
Rarely do you see somebody well-rounded with all of those. I certainly am not a man who twists the throttle on a Top Fuel Harley or a Top Fuel motorcycle. Okay, so I am no expert marketer, but I know that I can help. So what I requested at the end of 23 is I said, look, I need to meet with the NHRA sales team right now. We need to fix this out. That led me to Bradley Gerber, who is the head salesman for NHRA. And what he did is he had a really nice conversation with me. It was great. I said, we need to create a deck. We need help from the NHRA. He sent me to his people. Mike Rowell was one of them. A few of the other guys, their names escape me. Where I'm a little jaded and dismayed is I kind of felt like we were taking on a ride. I really do. Because my contention
Take
was,
it on a ride.
look, you know these guys sell tickets. They're not asking for much of a purse. What kind
Why would he be surprised? I mean, really, why would he be surprised? You're dealing with corporate people, greed. They'll take you for a ride. They don't care. As long as they're getting their money at the end of the day, and they'll keep stringing you along too, as long as they're getting money.
of compromise can we work out here? Can you guys help? You guys know these sponsors. Where's your Mickey Thompson? Where's your Skag? Where's your Suzuki? Where's your Vance and Hines? Who can step up and back this class and get these guys here? Oh yeah, we're going to sell it. We're pitching it. We're pitching it left and right. After 4 months of them pitching it, they had nothing. And we're back to the Ned Walliser conversation. Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? Pro mod racers probably know this situation well. Pay to play. Okay? So
It's crazy. You gotta pay to
$60,000
play.
is what we need to raise. I'm like, gosh, how are we going to do this? I mean, my philosophy was let's piecemeal it. Let's piecemeal this thing together because this is not Top Fuel Dragster racing. This is motorcycle racing where we just have you can see back here on Cycle Drag, we have a small fraction of what they have in the car world. So I thought maybe let's get individual sponsors, 2 of them for $5,000 each a race. I'm trying the best I can. I can't get any traction, any headway. Finally, it helps to have friends in high places. Well, the great Joe Koenig owns a company called Trimtex Drywall Products. Joe has been a mentor and a friend of mine since he raced Pro Stock Motorcycle, and I met him back in 2001. Also one heck of an incredible businessman. He took over his father's business, which was thriving, and then just took it to the next level. It's incredible what Joe Koenig has done. So anytime I have a business question, anytime I need advice, I call Joe. I called Joe. I told him the situation. Joe's a mover and shaker. He said, look, racing's expensive. Racing's expensive. And he's like, I do agree with you, Jack, that NHRA should be helping here, but they're not going to help. So what we need to do is we need to make this happen in year 1. Let me work the phones. They wanted $60,000. Joe's first call was to Pingle Enterprise, Wayne and Donna, great supporters of motorcycle drag racing. And what they did is they would pay $25,000. Okay? And
That's a
that
good
is
start.
What they were contributing to Man Cup, I believe, in product. Since the Man Cup, Top Fuel Motorcycles were not Man Cup anymore, they just applied that to NHRA. That still left us quite short. Well, Joe calls Jimmy the Hulk Brantley, another godsend. He calls Dave Vantine, who had a very successful business. Who else did we call? Hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody. And then Joe Koenig takes money out of his own pocket. Says, here you go. Here you go. Here's 60 grand. Go do it. And I'm like, Joe, you did this in 1 day. How did you do it? And Joe, does this need to be the Jimmy Brantley, Dave Vantine, Trimtex, Pingle series? He said, nope. He said, we have all agreed Pingle deserves this. Give Pingle the full sponsorship. We don't need a thing. He said, the only thing we ask is that NHRA, we're going to get it out there for the first year, 4 races. NHRA help us sell this, and every single racer from Larry McBride to Mitch Brown to Joska Salakari to Micah Fenwick to, who am I forgetting, Bobby Malloy on Sam Wills' bike. Every single racer helps us increase participation. We don't want rain. Participation helps us increase participation.
No, we don't want it to rain while
we
we're
get these
racing.
new bikes going. We get these guys out of the woodwork. We get some youth in this sport, and we get some new sponsor blood. That is the way a guy like Joe Koenig is a fixer, and he wants a legacy. Okay, so he wants to leave something behind. Like he wants to see Top Fuel motorcycles, which are, I've never seen anybody look at a Top Fuel motorcycle, go down the racetrack and say, boy, that was boring. They are cool. They are so cool, and it takes a special type of individual to do it. So because of Joe Koenig, we were off and running. Off and running. It was great to see. Now the NHRA series had Wallies. It had points. Here's part of the problem.
Okay.
Here's where things started to go wrong. Well, Larry McBride, like I said, one of the greatest ever, for sure. Larry has been known to maybe make too many promises and not deliver. It had been said on the phone multiple times, we're going to have 10 bikes. We're going to have 8 bikes. Talk to this person, talk to this person. And I said, whoa. I said, guys, I've done some promoting, and my quote, I can tell you how many times I've told them this. if you want 8, you better have 16, because somebody's going to run out of money. Somebody's not going to be able to make it. Somebody's going to get COVID. Somebody's not going to get the racetrack. Oh, no, we're going to have 8 bikes every race. In fact, one thing that I wanted them to let the injected Harleys in. Bob Malloy was adamantly against that. I can't remember. I don't know if Larry liked it or not. I can't remember exactly. I think he was like, he could go either way. Bob Malloy did not like it, which I found surprising since Bob is also a Nitro Harley racer. He thought that the Nitro Harleys would hurt the pit presence in the NHRA. What I thought is, hey, even if it's 4 or 5 guys behind the pace,
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you've only got 2 inline 4s showing up, so you need bodies. Let the Nitro Harleys in there. I know they're a little bit slower than the inline 4s, but shit, give them a head start. Give them like a 2-second head start or something. But you need bodies, so unless they can get some more top fuel guys, inline 4 guys, they're gonna have to probably merge the Nitro Harley and the regular top fuel category.
If Armin Furr, love you, Armin, use you as an example. Sorry, if Armin Furr wants to come out and enter, let him enter. You guys need bodies. Nope, we don't need bodies. Because of that, guys, I don't think we ever had a race with more than 6 bikes. And now we're down to 2, which could be the final race in the NHRA after 2 seasons. Now, I do want to give some credit to where credit's due to my superstars.
Micah Fenwick, Top Fuel Motorcycle Racer.
You're awesome. You did everything we could have ever asked for you. He stepped up late in his career with Gordon Liska and John Alwine. You were exactly what this class needed. And for Micah not making the final race, he had a good excuse. He had a terrible incident in Martin, Michigan, tore up the body, and that's Top Fuel Motorcycle Racing for you. And that speaks to if you want 8, you better have 16. So Micah, I'm so glad you're okay. Another bright spot, Jaska and Elmeri Salakari, my fellow Finns, came over here. Elmeri, what a bright spot for the class. How old are you now, Elmeri? 21, young, taller than Larry McBride, and his dad, absolute legend. And guess what, guys? Coming over from Finland is not easy. You want to talk about being committed to
that
this
costs
sport,
some money.
being committed to this genre.
Having to ship your bike
They
overseas.
certainly were. And if you watched what happened last year, unfortunately, they had a trailer accident. One of their crewmen got out to try to fix it on the side of the road. He lost a leg. We're so glad he is still with us. But this team has been through a lot. And if you know anything about Finnish culture, there's a word called sisu, which keeps them going strong. So thank you guys so much for that. But here's the biggest, and I do got to give credit to Bob Malloy for stepping up on a bike that was originally intended for Terry Kaiser, that Sam Wills helped him with. Mitch Brown made it to just about every single race. That was super awesome. Dave Vantine, superstar. That's a whole something. Dave Vantine has now exited the sport, and we're going to talk about that in a second and why that happened. But other than that,
wow, that's crazy.
These, pie in the sky guys that were going to come out of the woodwork ever came. None of these builds that we have been talking about for 10 years ever took shape. And it's so disappointing because, as Dave Vantine so eloquently told me, if this NHRA deal isn't enough to bring you out, whatever will be. And I'm not here to point accusatory fingers because it's very expensive. And like Chris Hand, I love you. So let me use you as an example. Bonafide, awesome bike. GT Tonglet, Ellie Tonglet's brother was making test hits on it last year at Man Cup. Just assumed we were going to see the beloved Redneck Express out at the NHRA Nationals this year. Really didn't for some reason. We've got other bikes sitting dormant all throughout the country that we just desperately need. Even if they're not top-notch bikes, as long as they're safe, desperately need them out there. What is the biggest problem? Here's one I gotta throw back. Now, if you've watched this channel, you know that I don't think anybody has given more coverage to Larry Spider-Man McBride than me, and I was so happy to do so. In fact, I actually took a little bit of offense at Dave Conforti, God bless you, Worldwide Bearings, another guy that does a lot for the sport. He brought Larry to PRI one year, and I did an interview with him, totally free, totally pro bono, happy to promote. That's all I want to do. And I said, Dave, why are you bringing him there? And he said, I want to show Larry the world. Well, Dave Conforti, I would counter with this. Taking Larry's bike to PRI is awesome, but if I showed you the amount of people that actually come to PRI versus the hundreds of thousands / millions of views that I have gotten for Larry McBride and Top Fuel Motorcycle with a camera in the cornfields of Valdosta, in Gainesville, in Darlington, at test sessions, at his shop, I do believe that I have showed the world Larry McBride. Now, I'm going to say another thing about Larry.
Yeah, that must be him when he was younger.
Talented racer, dying breed that there's just comes from that Elmer Trett background, that Elmer Trett just outlook. That I think it's. Let me say this, guys. It's the only Larry has the only Top Fuel motorcycle shop in the world. Mitch is doing it out of his garage. Mike is doing it out of his garage. Sam Wills, before he exited and sold his bike overseas to Australia, was doing it out of his shop. He's no longer in the sport. Larry McBride has the only Top Fuel motorcycle shop in the world. Larry has closed his front door. All right?
Wow, that's crazy.
So Larry doesn't do oil changes. He doesn't do tires. He does Top Fuel motorcycles. So one major criticism I have, and the man deserves all the praise, and I've given him all the praise. Multi-time champion, record smasher, he is awesome, is if there was ever any person who had the ability to bring more people into the sport, to put people on motorcycles, to make sure new people were coming in, to get creative, it is Larry McBride.
Would have been him.
And I can't totally fault him because this is competition. We're competitors. Larry has smashed every record, taken every accolade, taken every trophy, taken every ounce of everything for himself. Like I said, you can't fault him, but here's where the problem comes in, and this is where I've had to have this conversation with him. If you're doing that in NASCAR, if you're doing that in Top Fuel Dragster in the NHRA, that's great. That's great. John Force, right? Like, we've compared Larry to John Force, which is awesome. Here's the difference. John Force has 14, 15 other colleagues out there competing against him, and he also fields a team, and they also just launched Austin Proc not long ago, which is youth into the sport. There's been a pathway forward. Oftentimes for Larry McBride, there's been one other bike. And I told these guys, Steve McBride, Larry McBride, I said, look, you guys, how valuable would the Yankees be if they didn't have anybody to play? Larry's response, and we can agree to disagree, was always, why is it my responsibility to build this class? And I said, you know, technically it really shouldn't be, but this is the world we live in, that if there's two Top Fuel motorcycles showing up, and you've got a shop, and you've got a Rolodex, and you've got people supporting you, and you've got what I can count 4 bikes sitting inside that shop right now, there's nobody who has more of an ability, there's nobody who has more influence than Larry McBride,
yeah, if he wants
to build the class. And that will be the biggest indictment on him in his career.
Yeah, if he wants to keep racing, he's going to have to bring people in. I know his ego is probably, he doesn't want somebody to beat him because he holds the world records and he's used to winning all the championships, but what good is it going to do if you ain't got nobody to race against?
I think he'll go down as, if not the greatest ever, the greatest with Elmer Trett, right behind Elmer Trett. We don't know what the rest of Elmer's career would have looked like since we lost him too early. But definitely the greatest ever. The biggest indictment on Larry would be someone who strip-mined the sport. And the reason I say that is, like I said, every trophy, every accolade, but I know of at least 4 people or more who have called that shop, who are great racers, check. Have money, check. Have passion, check. That want to get involved, that Larry can't help. I don't know if I can drop any of those names, but what the heck, I will. One of them, Austin Christopher, who has the world's fastest Kawasaki turbo bike, called to inquire. Chris Moore, who you guys know, called to inquire. I pushed for Ty Tharp, Spevco president. He's got the money. He wasn't afraid of a Nitro Harley and is a champion to do it. Who else? There's a gentleman up in Maryland, former owner of Classic Collision, I believe, who I helped try to facilitate getting involved in Top Fuel Motorcycle. Here's the problem. Nobody can get involved. There's no path forward. There's no seats available. Jay Turner in Top Fuel Harley. Listen, Jay Turner and I have had some disagreements, just like Bobby. I respect Jay Turner, the racer, so much for what he's done. Here's one thing I really got to commend Jay Turner on. Jay Turner has created a situation where he is the class. He can bring 4 to 5 motorcycles to a race. I hate to say it, Top Fuel Harley guys, without Jay Turner, I don't think you have a class. You might. You need Jay Turner. When Jay Turner brings 4 or 5 top-notch bikes, and what he does then is he affords people like Ty Tharp, people like Randall Andrus, people like Chris Smith, people like JT Toth, they can get on top-notch equipment. That is how you have a drag race. And that is what I have begged.
That's somebody that's got stupid money. Not only you got one Top Fuel bike that costs a fortune to build, you got 4. Boy, that's a lot of money to have to fork out every year.
Larry McBride to do for years. I've begged him. Part of it is Larry's OCD that, like I said, and it's good to be clean, but there's not, other than Steve, there's really not even anybody allowed in the shop that isn't going to wipe their feet or put the Diet Coke somewhere where it's not on a coaster. Larry's getting older. At some point, Larry's got to pass that torch. And I don't want him to retire. I want him to keep racing. But where's our Austin Proc? We don't have one. Okay? We really don't have one in Top Fuel Motorcycle. And I'll tell you, I was burning about this. Burning. Because I just know I worked so hard with these guys to get Top Fuel Motorcycle back into the NHRA, and I just...
You know what? It sounds like I get it. He sounds like he's really tried to push to keep this class alive and going. And it seems like even though he's putting in all the effort, the people that should also be helping aren't helping. Like Larry McBride, he's like the top dude, but I think his ego won't let him build bikes for other people, because I know other people have called him to build bikes for him. He holds the records. Why not have the best guy build the bike for you, But he doesn't want to be outbeat. But here again, it goes back to, what good is it to race if you ain't got nobody to race against? If you ain't got a class, what are you going to do? Just go out there and run by yourself? That ain't fun.
don't think they realize how long is this class going to survive with 2 bikes. I think NHRA might be happy to take your money, and Pingle might be happy to pay $60,000, and we might be back next year rocking and rolling. And I hope, because I want positive change and I want something beneficial and good to come of this. But man, we got to go down the rabbit hole further with Larry McBride. And one name I got to bring up, because I hear it a lot, is the great, very generous Jimmy the Hulk
Brantley.
I am a big admirer of Jimmy the Hulk Brantley, a godsend, a generous godsend, not only to Larry McBride, but to the sport. Let me back up and tell you who Jimmy the Hulk is. A successful businessman, former amateur wrestler, former military man, just disciplined, loves racing. He got hooked up with the late, great Brian Johnson and started racing Top Fuel motorcycles when I was the announcer in like 01. Had a horrific explosion in Atlanta, 01. His bike was down. Brian Johnson lived in England at the time. Brian said, look, we're looking at a year to fix this bike. That's when Jimmy Brantley's introduced to Larry McBride. I want the bike that you have. Can we make it happen? Larry says it's going to cost this. Jimmy says, no problem. Here's the money. Let's rock and roll. Fast forward is Larry did a great job mentoring Jimmy, teaching Jimmy. And Larry had some health issues in, I think it was 2006. Actually had to sit out a few races. Jimmy Brantley actually won the championship. Second man in the 5-second zone, Jimmy Brantley. Jimmy then gets busy with work, disappears for 10 years. Sells his bike to Chris Matheson. Shout out Matho over in Australia. Matho buys his bike. Well, then here's a problem that I have. Because, like I said, personally, anybody can do whatever they want. But as Cycle Drag, as media, I have been hyping the return and the build of Jimmy the Hulk Brantley with Larry McBride since 2015. It is now
2015, damn.
And unfortunately, we have a beautiful new motorcycle sitting in the shop
10 years.
in Newport News, Virginia, that has not been to a race other than a test session that you saw on my channel at Orlando Speed World, and has not gone down the racetrack. And I'm here. There's something I got to say that, my opinion, from what I've seen, I don't blame this on Jimmy the Hulk Brantley one bit. And I've heard some comments that as we look at the new Hayabusa out there, one of the Hulk's favorite bikes, Hulk started on a Hayabusa. I've heard some comments that kind of irked me because a lot of people are saying Jimmy's scared of the bike. Jimmy's not scared.
Nah, he ain't scared
Jimmy's
of it.
smart, successful, wise, been there, done that, and is not going to get on a motorcycle and compete with something he's not comfortable with. What that means is he needs multiple test sessions. Multiple test sessions. We've only had 2. I've been at them, unless they've had a couple others that I don't know about. And those test sessions have taken so long to set up. This is after almost an 8-year build. This is after multiple interviews I've done hyping the return of Jimmy Brantley. This is after, I got to show you this piece, just so you guys know I'm not kidding. When Joe Koenig went full sponsorship with Larry McBride and was so
Years to build a Top Fuel bike? That's crazy. How mad would you be if you spent all that money, waited almost 10 years, and then your first run, you total the bike? That would piss me off so bad.
excited about Larry McBride rolling out a 2-bike team. Let's take you back to PRI show 2016, talking about a 2-bike team. Check this out. Here we are, PRI 2015, 15-time Top Fuel motorcycle champion Larry McBride. How you doing, Larry?
Everything's going great.
I understand we have some huge news.
We have huge news.
Let's hear it.
Joe Conan from Trim Tex has come on as a major sponsor this year. He's been an associate sponsor of mine since 1999. He's coming on as a full deal this year and next year. I got a 2-year deal with Joe, and just looking forward to promoting Trim Tex.
Now I understand he wants the trailer wrapped, and we're talking maybe even possibly a 2-bike team.
Very possible in the near future. We're going to have a 2-bike team is our goal. We're going a whole deal with the trailer wrap, the mule wrap, the mini bike wrapped. We're going Trim Tex 100% this year and next year, and possibly a 3rd year could be involved in that. But right now, it's definitely a 2-year full deal.
Seems like Top Fuel Motorcycle is really healthy. There's a lot of real quick bikes out there. Dave Vantine just went a 577. How excited are you now with a major deal and 2 bikes on the way?
Oh, it's going to be unbelievable. Our class is getting healthier and healthier, and you're going to see more and more of this. The class is going to be getting more healthy. We've got Dave Vantine, we got Sam Wills, still got Chris Hand. We've got other
they got
people
2
building a new
bikes
bike.
out there.
Terry Kaiser coming out with a new bike. So it won't be long. I think you're going to see 8-bike field in Top Fuel. 7-0 Joe, he's such a great supporter of drag bike racing. Former NHRA champion himself, has been with you for so long. What can you say about the passion that Joe Koenig and Trim Tex has for drag bike racing? There's really no words to say about Joe. Joe is a very passionate guy, and he's going to be very good for sport. Not only is he going to be helping me, he's helping the class. That's what he wants to do. He wants to also help the class and help the Manufacturers Cup and the IDBL and all the other sanctions go further with Top Fuel. So there's not a lot of words you can say about Joe Koenig except he's a great man.
Trim Tex and Larry McBride, a winning combination. We'll look forward to more news, Larry.
Thank you very much, Jack.
That was in
So there you have it,
2015.
guys. And that's the one thing I don't know if Larry realizes is we're making these promises to the fans, the followers. If I say something, I want to deliver on it. Okay, so it's 2025. Jimmy's never been to a race. Why has Jimmy never been to a race? Well, Jimmy's so loyal. Jimmy could back Larry on this. I don't know. I see the problem is Larry did not do his due diligence and give Jimmy enough opportunities, enough test sessions. Let me tell you something about Jimmy Brantley, and I want to tell you how generous he is. Jimmy Brantley gave Larry McBride the truck and trailer that he drives through races currently. Jimmy Brantley paid top dollar for that green bike to be built. Jimmy Brantley bought Larry McBride a brand new truck. Jimmy Brantley has given so much. Jimmy Brantley, this Hayabusa right here, used to belong to Jimmy Brantley, okay? All I had to do was drive to Newport News, Virginia and pick up a side-by-side for him. Larry said Jimmy needs a favor. I said, I'll do anything for Jimmy. Jimmy's helped me out. He's the man. Next thing you know, I unload a side-by-side after a long trip, and Jimmy says, get this piece of crap out of here. I'm going to get killed on it. Godsend.
Give him a Hayabusa.
That's
That's crazy.
McBride is why did you not live at Jimmy's house, camp at Jimmy's house, give that man every test session he could? I saw firsthand when we were at Orlando, they were having problems with the bike. Larry got so unbelievably frustrated that he told me in the trailer, he said, I can't take this anymore. I'm going back to being the driver. I'm not being the tester. I'm not being the test mechanic. I'm not being the crew chief anymore. At that point, I had a hard time ever looking at Larry McBride the same because I thought, man, I know you're frustrated right now, but I'm like, this man has given you everything, has pumped everything into the sport. You're a 20-time champion. You've had every record. You've had every accolade. It's now time to do whatever Jimmy needs to get him comfortable. If that means, follow me on this one, building a new bike, ripping this bike apart. If that means bringing back his old bike, whatever you have to do to get him comfortable, somebody who's pumped hundreds and hundreds, if not millions.
For real, especially if he gave you a brand new semi-truck and trailer. I mean, shit. Them things aren't cheap, man. Just because long time ago, I dealt with Freightliner for a little bit. And them trucks back then, brand new, were going for like 140, 150,000. Just for the truck. That's not the trailer. That's just for the truck. And I don't know how much the trailers go for, but I know they ain't cheap either.
Dollars into your program, who has given you so much. Now, I don't want to give away too much personal information, but why do I know this? Well, I had the pleasure of staying at Jimmy Brantley's house, and he took me to his nearby drag strip, Immokalee, if you've ever been there. Immokalee's certainly not fit for a Top Fuel motorcycle, but I think he might have done something there with Brian Johnson back in the day. You could certainly do 60-footers. You take the bike apart. For those of you who don't think Jimmy was interested or scared of the bike, last time I visited Jimmy Brantley, he had the Hulk trailer set up in his driveway, getting a custom awning and custom tools. So my only point to this, I'm not going to go down this vein anymore. I'm not here to divulge too much personal information about private people. But for everybody out there that said that Jimmy was scared or Jimmy lost interest, I don't see it that way. Welcome back.
Thanks a lot, Jack. I appreciate it.
How excited are you for your return?
Oh, I'm super excited. Can't wait until Larry gets done with the bike.
Larry McBride building a brand new motorcycle. It'll be just like his. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to go quick, and I think it's going to be fast, and I think we're going to have a good time riding it.
Well, Jimmy the Hulk Brantley, I got to say,
First
from
test
the naked
session.
eye, it just appears like you're doing everything right this test session. Take me through it from your perspective. How are things going?
They're going good. I'm a little slower than I should be, but we're just starting to catch up a little bit. Everything's working pretty good.
How about now on day two? How would you compare day one to day two in terms of your anxiety, your nerves? Did you calm down quite a bit?
Yeah. It was a little easier to ride today, and went a little straighter. Started to get a little bit ahead of the motorcycle like I'm supposed to, so it was better today.
I hear you guys say that, and I hear Larry say that often, that the motorcycle was ahead of me, or I need to be ahead of the motorcycle. How do you stay ahead of the motorcycle?
You just got to think quick, got to pay attention.
I don't think you stay ahead of the motorcycle. The motorcycle tells you what it's going to do, especially on a Top Fuel bike. There ain't no way to stay ahead of it. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if the engine's going to blow up. Tire might come off. Tire might shred. You never know.
And just don't let it get ahead of you. It just happens.
Damn, look at that big ass chain. Oh, something happened. What happened?
I'll go back on the mini bike, grab a new belt, we put it on all right here.
Oh, bell come off. How the hell did that happen?
Behind the scenes testing, this is what happens. This is why you go testing, but he's got the best crew in the world and they'll get this fixed in a timely fashion.
I'm gonna have to tell you how you bring the fuel jug and funnel.
So take a look at this guy. Spider-Man said he's never seen this. Pulley comes loose, twists up a belt. No big deal, easy fix. They will
Dang,
get
pulley
it
came
fixed,
loose.
Hulk, it's good we caught that one low, huh?
Yeah, buddy.
Yes, sir. This team will fix this one right on the line. They're not even going to take it back to the pits. And that's why you got to test, guys. They're the best.
Don't overfill it.
Well, at least it stayed on that time. Oh, got away from him. Got away from him a little bit there. That's crazy. Let's skip this bullshit.
How about it? Guys, welcome back. Jimmy, the Hulk.
Congratulations.
Not too bad, not too
Welcome back. How's she feel?
You feel great.
Woo!
Pulls like a monster.
Oh, my goodness. Well, your coach said
my
you couldn't have done any better.
My buddy's trying to kill me. My coach is trying to kill me.
You're
That's
trying to
the
kill
goal,
me.
right?
He's doing a wonderful job, I'm telling you.
He sure is.
We've got a long way to go right now. But,
I see Larry McBride did not do his due diligence to do everything in his power to get that green motorcycle out there to the track. And Larry McBride, why wasn't that bike at least at a race? Forget going down the racetrack. Why wasn't Jimmy at a race as a VIP? Let's cackle the Hulk. Let's start it up. And the way that
get him
what I know
going.
about Jimmy, and he could refute this, who knows? I think Jimmy would put somebody on the bike. I think he would. I really do. And tell me that's not what the class needs. So I just feel foolish. For 10 years, we talked about this return, this impending return. This
Yeah, and
seemingly
then
never will
nothing.
ever happen. And what's going to happen to this carbon copy of Larry McBride's star record-smashing motorcycle sitting in his shop in Newport News? What's going to happen to it? There was another chassis that was earmarked for Ethel Williams. I understand Ethel Williams didn't have the funds to finish paying for it, kind of, abandoned that project. They were going to settle up, maybe build another bike. This brings me to another problem with the Spider-Man that you got to watch making these promises. I was there in 2015 when Larry's bike exploded in Adco. He caught on fire. He was it hydraulicked because he was on and off throttle, putting on a show. Larry had to go to the hospital, sustained burns. But there was a GoFundMe created for his old bike Blue. And again, I'm not here to divulge personal information. I'm here because I covered this as media and I put this stuff out there. Larry McBride said on multiple occasions, everybody who donates to this GoFundMe will have their name on the wheelie bar and watch this bike go down the racetrack again. Larry, I know you're competitive, so I'm challenging you. I sure hope that happens. That was in 2015. It's now the end of 2025.
Yeah, it sounds like
We need to get Blue back out there. And why isn't somebody on Blue?
he's full of promises and no delivery.
I know Larry and I have disagreed on this. In Larry's mind, it's an old dinosaur. It's an old relic. Bike went 574. That bike would be unbelievable in the NHRA. And you know who would be a great pilot for it? There's another promise that hasn't been fulfilled. We've been hearing for 20 years. Chuck Stewart, son of Roland Stewart, very talented mechanic. And I'm sorry, Chucky. Chucky might get mad at me talking about him. But Chucky, you know how many times Larry has said, I'd like to put Chuck Stewart on the bike. Well, I have called that shop. I've called Stewart Cycle. I've told Chucky to get out there, get some sponsors, do whatever he has to do. But I'll say, I think you already got the sponsors. Between Pingle, Jimmy Brantley, and everybody else involved, the problem is this. Is Larry willing to share the spotlight? Is Larry willing to give up any ground? And that brings me back to Dave Vantine, because I know that was a huge problem with his team that I never wanted to mention, because I never believed it. But that is, it took Team Vantine 7 years to get a motorcycle from the McBrides. Maybe less, maybe we'll have to check.
Damn.
The time Dave Vantine told me it was that World Finals, what was it, 18? I think it was end of 18 when Larry went 550 and smashed the record. Everybody wanted his bike. Vantine didn't get a new bike till like 2 years ago. It was at least 5 years. Nitro Joe and some of these other guys told me, is he holding out on us because he doesn't want us to have the best equipment? let me tell you this about Dave
That-
Vantine as well. Dave
that could
Vantine
be.
was Larry's competitor, spending hundreds of thousands of
Is Larry McBride afraid of competition? He doesn't want to be beat? That's crazy. 7, 8 years to build a bike. I wouldn't think it would take that long. Maybe it would. I don't know.
dollars with Larry McBride to do his engines. So the problem I have with Dave Vantine, who had such an amazing career and decided to get out, and everybody's got the ability to get out and has that prerogative, and Dave, you have nothing to hang your head about. But if there's one thing that bothers me is I know all Dave wanted was a 569. I think his best run was what, a 570? Help me out, 570, 571, I think 570, right? 570, I think, I don't know, either 570, 571. Sorry, I'm getting old. I told you my birthday was this week. All that man wanted was something in the 560s. Larry McBride's been 550s. I know Larry will tell you, they didn't want our help. We couldn't help them. Larry, this was your customer. How could you guys not have helped this bike reach the 560 zone? Anyhow, Dave Vantine sold not only his old bike, but now his new bike. Hopefully, these two individuals get involved. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but that was the beginning of the year. What a just death blow to the class, because Dave Vantine's plan was to ride the new bike and then to put Jeff Pollard on his old bike. That'd be two top-notch riders in the class. We're growing this thing.
Yeah, for real.
At the beginning of 2025, we're going the wrong way. And I got to believe that it was really good to see Dave Vantine win a Wally. It was really nice to see them perform. It was really nice to see them perform. Wonder, could more
Sorry, I got my
done
stupid
to try to keep Dave Vantine
stream popped up
interested
there for a
in this
second.
sport. That was something that was very, very tough for me to see. So where are we now? I don't know. Another promise, last thing I got to dig on, and like I said, I don't want to be negative because, like I said, Larry McBride, definitely one of the greatest top fuel motorcycle racers of all time, but this is where his downfall comes in. Last year, I was in Brainerd at the NHRA race, up in the stands, and I cringed because Larry won, which is cool. Congratulations, he deserves it. When I cringed is when Joe Costello asked him a question to the live crowd and on NHRA TV and said, well, Larry, we got 4 bikes. What's 2025 looking like? And Larry says, oh man, we're going to rock this thing. We got all these Europeans coming over. It's going to be huge.
Oh shit, he's overpromising again.
I cringed.
Yeah, all the
This is
Europeans
same
coming
guy
over.
that was saying we were never going to have less than 8s. I know the Europeans he's talking about. They're awesome. Until there's something signed on paper, until these guys coming out, until those bikes are in shipping containers, you cannot tell the fans all these Europeans are coming over. And the only European
until you know for
this year
sure
is the European who had been there the year before, and that is the Finn, the great Jaska and Elmeri Salakari. So that, my friends, is a sad ending for Top Fuel Motorcycle. I hope, now like I said, one thing I know about Larry McBride is he is a competitive person, okay? And I certainly hope that he can take these personal challenges and prove me wrong. Let's see it. Let's see Ethel Williams' bike out there. Let's see Jimmy Brantley's bike out there, whether it's with Jimmy or somebody else. Let's see Chuck Stewart on a bike. Let's see Blue back out there. If you need help, tell the people.
Yeah, reinvigorate it. Because if you're down to 2, you're in trouble.
It's expensive, and Larry will constantly talk about, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, I have enough money. Well, let me tell you this, you're surrounded by some people with money that have helped you out a great deal. And I know this too, that you can't tell me you're too poor when I can stand across on Jefferson Avenue and look at a $800,000 shop paid off, a truck and a trailer paid off, a couple $1 million worth of motorcycles. I'm sure a lot of people watching this video know what poor is. I'm the kid that slept in the grandstands because I couldn't afford a ticket and had to sneak into the races. I know what poor is, and I know Larry came from poor, and that might be why he feels like that. But really, what I'm getting down to is after Elmer Trett's death, Jackie Trett told Larry something, and that is, it's up to you now, Larry, to carry this on. What I know about Elmer Trett is Elmer was about building the class and about participation to the point where
shit, that looks like
sorry if I'm
Larry in the
wrong, Tony,
70s.
he corrected me. His son-in-law to be, Tony Lang, was going to go funny bike racing with a turbo, and Larry said, or I'm sorry, Elmer said, no, Tony, if you go Top Fuel racing instead, I'll buy your first drum of nitro. That's how bad Elmer wanted to get people in the class. That's what an advocate Elmer Trett was. In fact, what was the other story Larry told me? When APE wanted to sponsor Elmer, Elmer said, no, No APJ. There's another kid coming up named Larry McBride, and I think you need to take a look at him. This is the selfless attitude that built the class. So Larry, you've accomplished everything. You've done everything. You've smashed every record. It is now time. You're down to 2 bikes. There's no class. Mitch Brown told me something in 2019, and it just stung me, and I hated it, and I disagreed with Mitch. And Mitch said, listen, when Larry's done, this thing's done. And I said, no. How I feel right now, how could it not be done? Not if something changes. Not if these guys don't get together. Not if we don't get youth involved in the sport. And Jay
gotta
Reagan
get
actually
new
had a
people in
conversation
there.
with me. We were watching football, and he said, do you think when Larry retires, all these new teams will come out of the woodwork because Larry's been so dominant? Now they'll have an opportunity. And I said, I don't see it. What I see with these young kids, I think they'll go more the Chris Moore grudge route. You can buy from DME, you can buy from different manufacturers out there. You don't have to CNC parts, you don't have to machine parts on a mill or a lathe. Sometimes you might, but it's not as, it's not as
Custom as
you don't
Top
have to be as
Fuel.
much of a specialist. And trust me, those guys are specialists as well, but I think all those guys will admit to learn a Top Fuel motorcycle, to put in the work required for a Top Fuel motorcycle, to machine one-off parts and then destroy them, takes a certain breed of individual that may not exist any longer. But if anybody has a chance to make sure this class carries on, it's Larry McBride. So 2 things I'd like to say. How do you fix this? There's one is hopefully Larry fixes it. Number 2, what you do here is what I think needs to be done. All right.
You know what?
I think it was a mistake going 1,000.
I think Larry, though, probably, he seems like a nice guy. But his ego, I think his ego isn't going to let him do that. I think he wants to be the last one to walk out of Top Fuel motorcycle, that category, as the top guy, as the only guy. Because it's very obvious he don't want anybody else competing with him. He wants to stay the top guy, It's crazy.
I really do. And I'll tell you how that happened. That was not an NHRA decision. That was a committee decision, and the committee was everybody but Larry. Larry wanted quarter mile. Now, let me say this. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I respect what you're doing. Maybe it was too fast, but I really want everybody to know this. And Mitch Brown was one of the biggest proponents of 1,000 foot, because when I promoted a race at Bill Bader's Norwalk Night of Fire, Bill wouldn't let us go 1,000 foot because it wasn't what the sport was all about. He was a staunch believer in that. And Mitch was so mad at me, he said, call my family and tell them when my funeral is. And I was so upset, right? So upset. Here's the reason. I'm not being hypocritical. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. If it's 1,000, if we're running quarter mile, you always have an opportunity to shut the bike off at 1,000 foot. I think the guys wanted 1,000 foot so they could close the distance on Larry. What I believe after 2 years of NHRA 1,000 foot is the Top Fuel motorcycle class hurt its marketing so bad, because what does everybody say after a 1,000 foot run? What would that have been in a quarter? What would that have been in a quarter? Right? So I digress. And why did Larry get so much attention at that first Virginia match race? Because he ran a quarter mile and he went 268 miles an hour. It was a new record. There hasn't been that type of pomp and circumstance. So Mitch and all you other guys out there, listen, I want you guys to be safe, and going 1,000 foot has its merits, but just know from a spectator point of view, I believe the class was hurt, just like I believe Top Fuel dragsters and funny cars got hurt moving to it.
Why can't we go
feet? That maybe we need to slow the motorcycles.
Why can't we go back to the quarter mile and just extend the tracks? Why don't we just do that? I mean, that would make life that seems like a good solution. I know that might cost the NHRA money, and that's probably why they don't want to spend the money, because obviously they don't want to spend money. But yeah, put it back to quarter mile and extend the tracks.
Down. Maybe we need to look at doing that. And that brings me to my number 3 reason of what needs to be done. And these guys are going to, spit their beer out at the screen if they haven't already. But here's where I think we are with Top Fuel Motorcycle. We have long tried to get the Nitro Harleys to join Top Fuel Motorcycle. Somebody from the Jay Turner team so eloquently told me we don't go to races where we rely on other people bleeping up to go. I respect it. What Bob Malloy told me. Bob Malloy said, I'd rather burn my bike, my Harley, than run Larry. Bob Malloy said, we've got 5 years of history of Ray Price and Tommy Grimes going to Valdosta, and Larry wore them out and kicked their butt every time. He's right. So let me ask you this, Top Fuel motorcycle 4-cylinders, those that are left, quarter-mile records are out the window because we're not doing it anymore. We're 1,000 foot. So who cares, right? That legacy is left. There's never been a better time to figure out how to slow your motorcycles down to appease the Nitro Harleys. Instead of trying to get the Nitro Harleys to join you, let's team you up with the Nitro Harleys. And Nitro Harley guys, before you spit your beer out at me, you need numbers too. You're healthier than the 4-cylinder guys, but you guys need numbers as well. We got to find a way, just like Pro Stock Motorcycle. What do we see? V-twins, 4-cylinders, and a way to
they need
maintain
bodies.
parity.
Got to get egos out of the way.
That's what needs to be done in Top Fuel. Somebody needs to step in, maintain parity. Now, I'm not smart enough, so you guys help me out, you experts out there. Is it decreasing the blower? Is it decreasing the percentage of nitro? Whatever needs to be done to back a 4-cylinder motorcycle up to, I don't know, 500ths behind a Top Fuel Harley, 300ths behind a Top Fuel Harley, and then step in and maintain parity. That is how you do it, guys. That's how you put on a show. Because right now, Top Fuel 4-cylinder motorcycles don't have enough entries. It's not growing. It's going the other way. It's dying. And I hate to see it like that because there's too much history. There's way too much legacy there. And another track record. Beating the Spider-Man at home is kind of like trying to beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Let's take another look at this epic race, and let's give Mitch Brown credit. He brought it, but the Spider-Man takes the win. So how about that, guys? The Spider-Man, Larry McBride, gets it done to his home track. Loving it. And hey, the most important thing, everybody stayed safe.
So we run all weekend on one motor. Now, we were very fortunate as far as the weekend. The weekend is, as hot as it was, you don't make near as much power. You have to calm everything down to make the run. 1,000 foot does help, on the nutrition of parts. But what Jimmy and Byron did is very awesome. So it's just be able to be involved.
There's a lot of history and a lot of legacy, as I said, but right now a lot of unanswered questions, especially with only 2 bikes showing up at the final NHRA race and this class really not showing any signs of growth. That's the inside story on Top Fuel Motorcycle. Let me know what you think down below. I am rooting for this class hard. I really hope these guys can figure it out. I hope we can get some youth. I hope we can get some new teams. I fell in love with these motorcycles when I first saw them compete back in the mid-'80s, and I want to see them go strong for years to come, and I stand firm.
All right, that's pretty much it for that. But I appreciate you guys tuning in with me this evening. This was definitely a good stream, man. What do you guys think? I mean, NHRA is, I don't know, man. It sounds like the corporate people are really screwing that thing up, man. Greed, money, and then egos with Larry McBride. But I think that's going to be the death of Top Fuel Motorcycles, and NHRA is going to be money, greed, and egos. That's crazy. I hope that's not the case. I'm kind of with Jack, I hope that's not the case, but you never know. But I appreciate you guys tuning in with me this evening. If you guys want to follow, if you're not already a follower, that'd be fantastic. You can also check out my, I got a YouTube and Rumble channel as well. But I appreciate you guys tuning in with me tonight. I should be back here hopefully between 5 and 8. 5 or 8, 5, 9 Eastern, hopefully. I'm not 100% sure because there is a football game I'm going to watch tomorrow. I don't know what time it comes on. So depending on what time it comes on, I might not stream at all. But we'll see. But hopefully I'll be back on tomorrow, y'all. But if you want to hang around a bit for some, we can jam out to some heavy metal. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow, if not Monday for sure. But hopefully tomorrow. Appreciate you guys tuning in with me. Take care, y'all.